The younger sister loved listening to romance novels, so the older sister would read to her even with a hoarse voice. Because the meaning of the older sister's life was to live for her younger sister. In reality, the older sister was an orphan. She was adopted by a childless couple. She was so happy, thinking she would finally have a family. But before long, the adoptive parents had their own biological child. How could an adopted child compare to their own flesh and blood? However, their biological child was born with a serious illness. The adoptive parents blamed all their misfortune on the older sister. They made her go hungry, beat her, and cursed her. Not only that, she was even deprived of the right to laugh. If she smiled, she would be scolded. "Your sister is so sick. How can you have the heart to smile?" She began to live for everything her sister loved, and she also began to resent her sister. But seeing her sister lying on her sickbed, on the verge of death, she couldn't bring herself to completely hate this suffering. This continued until her sister died of her illness at the age of 20. She completely lost her value. It all finally ended when her adoptive parents kicked her out of the house. That day, she didn't shed a single tear. She had only one thought: I'm useless now. Wandering the streets, she felt she had lived long enough. All this time, she had been living according to standards set by others. It's so tiring, so annoying. I don't want to be more tired and annoyed. Jumping from here would be the end of it. But the pain she imagined never came. Before her was a bright light and the figures of people moving back and forth. A maid exclaimed, "Lady Selina is awake." The Duke and Duchess, hearing the news, rushed over. They tearfully spoke of their panic, thinking they were about to bury their own child. The young Duke then asked with concern if she felt unwell anywhere. "We were all so worried about you, Selina." The woman was bewildered. "Where is this? Who are you? Do you really not remember?" "We are from the house of Duke White. We are your family." She had actually transmigrated into the novel her sister loved most in her past life. She had become the villainess who didn't have long to live. Sinking into the soft, 50-meter wide bed, she thought that lying flat like this for a lifetime wouldn't be so bad. But in the book, the original owner of the body was an incredibly greedy woman. Despite being doted on by her father, mother, and brother, she would throw tantrums every day. Hearing that her brother was to inherit the dukedom, she wanted it too. Unfortunately, her abilities didn't match her ambition. Even studying tirelessly, she couldn't catch up to even 1/10,000th of her brother's talent. So, she began to torment the kind Princess Ariel, the novel's heroine, who was originally in love with her brother. Because if the two of them married, her brother's position as the heir would be even more secure. But after she succeeded in breaking them up, she was thrown into prison by those who hated her. In the end, with no friends or family left, she had nothing. At the age of 23, she fell ill and died a miserable death in prison. The woman shifted into a more comfortable position. She had no intention of striving for her ambitions. If she dies, she dies. If she lives, she lives. She didn't understand why the gods had spared her life, only to let her continue living in someone else's body. Puzzled, she fell asleep. In her dream, she first saw her deceased sister. But then she saw the original owner of the body, disheveled and struggling. She cried out, "Please, someone save me. Please, anyone just stay by my side. Just for the moment I die. Don't let me die so miserably and alone." Seeing the original owner begging so humbly, the woman thought this was the reason she had been brought here. To help her have someone by her side when she closed her eyes for the last time, so it wouldn't be too tragic. Thinking that she was borrowing this body, she decided to fulfill the dead person's wish. But the next day, she regretted it. It was too much trouble. Once you're dead, who remembers how it felt to die? Soft sunlight fell on her face. She drifted off to sleep again without realizing it, until she was awakened by a series of clattering sounds. The noise made it impossible to sleep anymore. Driven by curiosity, she moved forward to see who it was. She saw a man with white hair and purple eyes, drenched in sweat and panting heavily, wielding his sword, his chest heaving, completely absorbed in his own world. The woman thought to herself that the ducal estate had no training grounds. Why was he practicing here? Now she'd have to go through the trouble of finding a new place. As she tried to leave, her hair got tangled in a branch, and she couldn't get away. A classic, cliché trope from a novel. She had no choice but to call out to the man for help. But this exclusive guard knight of the ducal house What was the male lead's name in the book again? That. No, Lucas. Ah, Lucas. Can you help me? My hair is tangled, and I can't get out. Hearing this, Lucas carefully untangled the messy strands of hair while sizing up the constantly yawning woman before him. This maid, who seemed so out of place in the ducal household. She was once known for her terrible personality, but now she didn't seem so detestable. Did her entire personality change because of her amnesia? After he untangled her hair, Selena looked up to thank him. Perhaps their eyes met for too long. An idea suddenly sparked within her. Win this man over. The male lead, Lucas, is supposed to fall for the female lead, Princess Ariel, this winter. So right now, he should only see the female lead as a classmate he's on friendly terms with. Then maybe there's still a chance. A chance to make him develop genuine feelings for her. If the male lead could become her friend and shed a tear for her at her funeral, then the original owner's death surely wouldn't be so lonely. With this thought, she leaned forward and took his hand. Lucas, do you want to be friends with me? Her lips, drawing ever closer, paused for a full 3 seconds. The man was lost for a moment, but upon hearing the word friends, he refused. He gave no reason. She didn't press the issue. Dusting herself off with a well, can't be helped, she turned to leave. But after she left, when Selena thought of the word friend again, she was pulled into a memory of her past life. She had never had any friends, because whether she was at school or at work, she always had to rush back and forth to the hospital to care for her sister. Most importantly, her parents didn't want her to have friends. You can't associate with others. You have to take care of your sister. Don't you think she's pitiful? If you want to call us mom and dad, you have to do as we say. Otherwise, we'll throw you out. And they were true to their word. The moment her sister died, they abandoned her. Just then, she arrived at the base of the central tower, gazing up at the towering structure. She was truly tired of it all. After a strenuous climb to the top, she caressed the bell. She realized she could never fulfill the original owner's wish. She had no confidence she could make people grieve for her at her funeral. She had even less confidence that she could close her eyes to the sound of others weeping. Lucas's firm rejection just now was proof. Both she and the original owner were destined to never be cherished. She had struggled in her past life, and she had failed. This time, she would just say forget it on the original owner's behalf. By jumping from here, she could at least avoid the fate of dying a painful, lonely death from illness. Her family should still cry for her. After all, the plot hadn't progressed to their falling out yet. With that thought, she plunged downwards without hesitation. This was the second death she had chosen, but a pair of hands caught her. She was not allowed to fall into the earth's embrace as she had wished. Instead, she was pulled into his chest. It was Lucas who had arrived just in time. After they had parted, Lucas had also been lost in thought. He felt there was something strange about the maid. Why did she want to be his friend? And why was she so silent after being rejected? Especially her face. It was so numb, she hardly looked alive. Relying on his sharp intuition, he came to a major misunderstanding. He thought the woman tried to kill herself because of him. And no matter how Selena tried to explain it wasn't his fault, he wouldn't listen to if it wasn't. Then why were you trying to die? Selena frowned at his question. Our relationship isn't close enough to talk about such things. I'm not doing this for you, so you don't need to feel concerned or guilty. It was thoughtless of me to cause a misunderstanding. With that, Selena was about to go back the way she came. But looking at the countless steps, she secretly glanced at Lucas. Why isn't he leaving yet? Once he's gone, she can safely roll down. But the man misunderstood her sigh. He swept her up into a princess. Carrie, if I leave you here, you might not get back until nightfall. Are you regretting coming to a place like this? Selena said nonchalantly, didn't you see? I wasn't planning on taking the stairs down anyway. Although she didn't want to owe him a favor, being held like this was surprisingly comfortable. So comfortable that she even felt a little sleepy. Looking at the woman's sleeping face, Lucas's confusion grew bit by bit. After returning, he told the Duke what had happened that day. The old father's heart was broken. His daughter finally wanted to leave her room to get some air in the garden, only to attempt suicide. He couldn't understand the reason why. The next day, the doctor came to see her and asked about it. I just feel that everything is a mess. The doctor believed this might be a composite symptom of stress from amnesia and emotional deficiency, which caused the young lady to become a withered shell. There was no cure. They could only watch over her and see what happened. Otherwise, she might try to kill herself again. The old mother's heart ached as well. The Duke, trying hard not to cry, asked Lucas to protect his Selena. Her brother, Aaron, also pleaded with his best friend. Although I want to be by her side, I'm afraid it would only cause her more pain. Lucas understood his friend's difficult situation. Coming from a poor baron's family, he was only able to attend the academy thanks to the Duke's support. The Duke and Duchess also treated him like their own son, letting him live in the ducal manor. So he saw clearly how much his friend doted on this sister, and how much this sister despised her brother. Of course, I will protect her. You don't have to worry. And so, Selena was placed under constant watch. No matter what she said, the loyal servants wouldn't let her go anywhere. But the woman, who knew the plot, understood. The one before her was no sweet pushover, but a servant who held a grudge against the original owner. His name was Aiden. Before the original owner brought him home, he was a beggar everyone trampled on. The original heroine was cruel, constantly beating and scolding him. Even a cornered rabbit will bite back. So he hid his magical awakening and, along with the male lead, sent her to prison. With such a person by her side, she was afraid he might get rid of her in a moment of carelessness. On top of that, there was Lucas, who came to her place to slack off every day as if clocking in for work. Her failed attempt had just made things more troublesome, but it didn't matter. There would surely be another chance to die. Unexpectedly, a week passed, and those two never left her side. After lying down for 7 days, Selena's bones felt stiff. She decided to go out for a walk and get some sun. However, she unexpectedly ran into her brother, Aaron. Aaron cautiously asked his sister, "Are you feeling any better?" Seeing his helpless expression, the woman suddenly felt like she was looking in a mirror. Even when expressing love, he held back, afraid of angering his volatile, sensitive sister. Thinking of this, she suggested, "Brother, would you like to take a walk with me?" A flustered Aaron agreed, secretly overjoyed. Walking by his sister's side, this was the first time they had ever been so close. His sister even took the initiative to ask how he was doing. But regarding her amnesia, she said, "I've remembered a few things. For example, that I used to hate you, brother." Seeing Aaron's face fall instantly, the woman knew what he was thinking. He probably thought his sister was about to give him a hard time again. How pitiful. She knew all too well what this kind of unrequited sacrifice was like, and the emptiness and sorrow behind that sacrifice, and the emotions that come after one's heart dies. "I'm sorry for hating you so much before, brother. I'm sorry for being so mean to you." Perhaps because of their similar experiences, compared to the original owner of the body, the woman felt that Aaron was more like family to her. Aaron was just like her younger self standing before her parents, full of expectations. Wanting to be loved, he was always trying to read their expressions, afraid their affection would slip away, afraid of being abandoned again, and thus was constantly anxious. Towards outsiders, he was confident and proud. He only showed such a vulnerable side to his beloved sister. What a fool. The woman thought that if she could go back to her childhood and meet her younger self, she would definitely hold her hand tightly and tell her to let go of expectations. Those who don't love you will never love you in the end. The proud sister actually lowered her head. Although Aaron was confused, he still smiled and said thank you. But right after, his sister asked him for a favor. The next day in the royal garden, Princess Ariel was on edge. She didn't understand what this lady-in-waiting, who always took pleasure in bullying her, suddenly wanted. She and her lover were as anxious as two little rabbits. After a moment, Selena stood up. "I sincerely apologize for my previous rudeness to you. I will never do it again." Faced with the apology, the princess, the victim, was as flustered as if she were the perpetrator until her lover's hand reached out to her. His gaze was gentle, as if saying, "Don't be afraid. Trust her." Only then did the princess break into a smile. It was all in the past. Selena's simple, "I'm sorry," brought a destined couple together, who, in the novel, had broken up before their engagement ceremony. Soon, it will be time for the engagement celebration. Lying in bed, the woman mused to herself. It turns out that just by apologizing, many things can be resolved. But her plans to die would have to be postponed for a bit. She couldn't spoil the mood during such a joyous occasion. Just then, Lucas came to her as usual. As soon as he entered, he smiled. "Are you going to lie in bed all day again today? Just sitting isn't good for you. You should walk around more and get some sun." Selena was speechless at his, "I'm so worried about you" act. He seemed like a gentleman on the outside, but was actually secretly scheming. His consideration for her was merely out of a promise to the Duke's family, yet he could act with such sincerity. Seeing his stance that seemed to say, "I won't move until you get up," Selena gave in. "Fine, I'll go out just this once." But having not moved for a long time, her legs had no strength, and she fell just getting out of bed. Aiden rushed forward to support her, asking with concern, "Miss, are you all right?" The woman stared at this man who would one day backstab her. She thought his loyalty must be an act, too. But compared to Lucas, he isn't as calculating. He should be more trustworthy. Afterwards, she walked between the two men on a spring day with falling petals, receiving gazes from all directions. Everywhere they went, the maids would turn to look. She had almost forgotten that both of them were handsome men, only thinking about how they would kill her in the future. Just then, Lucas, standing to the side, gently advised, "You should eat more and move more. Master Aaron's engagement ceremony is soon. You'll scare the guests if you attend with such a pale face." Selena agreed with him, but she pulled her hand away, exposing his disguise. "You don't have to act anymore. I can see right through it, and it makes me very uncomfortable." Watching the woman's retreating back, Lucas thought to himself that she had been so disheartened that her personality had changed and her heart had become empty. But her perceptive gaze was sharper and more accurate than before. To think she saw through his insincerity. She's become more interesting. Interesting enough that he wanted to keep an eye on her, even without the Duke's request. Meanwhile, the departing Selena took Aiden to a courtyard, where a spread of desserts and cakes was laid out. She had just noticed that he seemed to have something on his mind, so she pushed a slice of strawberry mousse toward him. "Have some cake. Don't you like it? From now on, I'll only go for walks and eat with you. The others make me uncomfortable." Aiden subconsciously refused. He didn't have the strength to protect the young lady like Lord Lucas. What if something happened? What was even stranger was that the young lady couldn't even remember his name clearly. So how did she know he liked cake? That was because it was written in the book. Whenever the maids abused that scary person, the people of the ducal house who pitied him would bring him the finest cake, a delicacy reserved for the nobility. But the woman didn't explain. She just took a bite of the chocolate pie in front of her. As the cocoa powder slowly melted on the tip of her tongue, releasing a rich, sweet aroma, she finally realized in that moment that she hated this taste. But this was the only cake flavor she knew from her past life. That day, her younger sister celebrated her birthday in the hospital. Her parents bought her sister's favorite chocolate cake, and she was lucky enough to get a piece as well. Even though she didn't find it tasty, but wanted to fit in with her family's happy atmosphere, she forced herself to finish it. Meanwhile, Aiden, who had also noticed the change in her mood, asked, "Are you all right, my lady? Why has your expression suddenly changed?" "Aiden, I hate chocolate cake." "Then you have a strawberry one, my lady. I'll eat the chocolate one." As the woman tasted her cake, Aiden, who had been secretly watching her for a while, turned his head away. For some reason, after sensing the young lady's sadness, his heart also sank. She looked like the saddest child in the world, abandoned by everyone. Thankfully, she was now back to her usual self. Just then, against the backdrop of the intoxicating sunset, Aiden took a bite of the chocolate cake. "From now on, if there's anything you don't like to eat, my lady, just give it to me. I'll eat it." There was another sentence he couldn't bring himself to say. "So please don't ever look so sad again." Soon, the day of her brother and the princess's engagement arrived. Selena was dragged out of bed by the maids at 6 o'clock, bathing, combing her hair, applying nail polish. Not a single detail was overlooked. When Aiden came to deliver the jewelry, he saw the young lady fresh from her bath. A casual glance from her made his face turn red. He put down the jewelry and fled. It wasn't the first time he had seen her disheveled, so why was his heart beating so fast today? Meanwhile, being suddenly dressed up so meticulously from head to toe, the woman felt very uncomfortable, not to mention having to choose from numerous collars and accessories. "Just choose the ones on the far left. The left ones suit you very well." Lucas was leaning against the doorframe, a faint smile on his face. Ever since she made things clear last time, this guy, far from staying away, had become even more shameless in his pursuit. Having dropped his gentlemanly act, he seemed even more annoying. Finally, the maids were finished. The woman stared at her stunningly noble reflection in the mirror, lost in thought for a long time. She couldn't recognize this version of herself from her past life. "That you've dressed me beautifully. Thank you for your hard work." The usually arrogant and willful lady actually thanked them. The maids were in disbelief, but Lucas seemed unfazed, as if he expected it. He explained that today, he would be the one to stand by the lady's side, to be her escort and protector. Selena refused, saying that having Aiden with her was enough. "My lady, he is a servant, even if he is a man close to you. Accepting a servant as an escort will earn you the scorn of the other nobles. If he hadn't reminded her, the woman would have forgotten this was a class-based society. With her status as a lady, she could enjoy everything without lifting a finger. But Aiden could only stand behind her, far away from her. The thought of this irritated her. The nobles are truly disgusting. My lady, you and I are also nobles. Does that mean we are disgusting too? Perhaps we are. Seeing that Lucas was just smiling with no intention of leaving, Selena told him she had something else to do before the event. She asked him to call Aiden in on his way out. Little did she know, the manservant had been waiting outside the door all along. He had heard every word of their conversation, leaving him in a daze. The young lady in his memory had two sides, but neither of them was this one. This was their first encounter. Little Aiden, abandoned by his parents, was used to being beaten. Kindness, to him, was just an unfamiliar word from a fairy tale book. And then, in the light of the setting sun, the young miss walked up to him. Not only did she not mind that he was dirty, she even extended her hand. You're beautiful. Do you want to come with me? It was like a beam of light shining down on him. The beautiful young lady would take him to a fairy tale, to a life without pain. But the next chapter shattered his heart. After arriving at the magnificent ducal manor, as young master Aaron began to distinguish himself, the young miss, jealous of her brother, took her anger out on him. There were no more fields under the setting sun. Instead, there were only the young miss's angry curses and violence. She cursed him for not even being willing to steal a book her brother had read. Useless thing. You should have been beaten to death on the street. Day after day, little Aiden was about to break. Didn't she smile at me back then? Her words back then, wherever I go, you must follow. You are mine, have been so full of hope and made his heart flutter. Recalling the hand he was told never to let go of, he told himself to hold on. At least here, he didn't have to endure the cold winter wind. Until the year he turned 17, when young master Aaron graduated at the top of his class from the academy. The furious young miss trashed the entire room. In her rage, she accidentally hit him on the head with a vase. Aiden's heart completely shattered into dust. How is this any different from his old days of begging on the streets? After calming the panicked young miss, he rushed back to his quarters. Grievance, anger, something that had been building up in his heart erupted into murderous intent. It was the feeling of betrayal. But through all the years of being beaten on the streets and insulted by the young miss, he had never shed a tear. Yet after having the intent to kill, he cried. Unexpectedly, his will gathered into magical power. In this world, mages are incredibly powerful. Could it be that the blood of a mage flowed in his veins? Aiden thought about using this power to kill the young Mississippi, but before that, he needed to hide his ability. Fortunately, the young miss became much calmer towards him after that incident. Memories and reality intertwined. Aiden still couldn't believe that even with her memory loss, the young miss could say words that challenged the class system. And what the woman wanted to do now was to find her brother. She sincerely wanted to congratulate him that the lovers could finally be together. Aiden, following behind, accompanied the young miss to her future sister-in-law's room to find her family and say congratulations. She really had changed so much. But when they arrived at the door to the Duke and Duchess's room, the young miss stopped because the woman was afraid. When the Duke and Duchess looked at her with eyes full of affection, she was filled with guilt. She couldn't even bring herself to say father and mother. She felt like a thief who had stolen the love of these parents for their real daughter. After a while, she finally knocked on the door. Hearing their daughter's voice, the Duchess was the first to emerge. She hadn't expected her precious daughter to visit her on her own initiative. The Duke, having heard she was greeting everyone, was incredibly proud, praising her repeatedly. Their voices were warm, their gazes affectionate, a soft embrace, a joyous welcome. Even though the woman constantly remembered that she was an imposter, not a single moment of this love belonged to her. But in this moment, she was still moved enough to call out father, mother. Involuntarily, she threw herself into that longed-for embrace. Just let her be selfish for once, to feel something she had never had. The affection of parents for their child, and on behalf of the original owner, to thank the parents who loved her so much. But after doing so, the woman felt even more sorrowful. She couldn't understand what the original owner had been so dissatisfied about, to make her ignore her parents and brother who treasured her so. Nor could she understand why the original owner had summoned her here. She had everything she never dared to wish for. A wife who would never die. But the only thing she knew for sure was that none of this belonged to her. She was merely occupying the original owner's body. This fleeting warmth, this love that gives false hope, was better left untouched. As the woman walked down the stairs, she grew weary of these strange surroundings, planning to die in a few days. But a quick-witted Aiden reacted, his voice hoarse from shouting as he quickly reached out his hand. But he missed his chance to grab the lady. He could only watch as she fell before his very eyes. The woman looked at the man's panicked expression, realizing that she was the one who owed him an apology. Besides, if someone had to end Selena's life, it should be Aiden. With her last glance, she marveled at how beautiful his platinum blonde hair was. But as she closed her eyes, she was suddenly surrounded by halos of light, floating in midair until Aiden, who was casting a spell, arrived. Only then did she slowly fall into his arms. He didn't dare to hold her tightly, afraid he might hurt the lady. He only let out a long sigh of relief after gently setting her down. "My lady, you're all right." The woman stopped him with her hand. "Why did you save me?" Aiden was stunned. What kind of question was that? Did the lady not want to be saved? A passing maid asked, "Lady Selena, what happened?" "I suddenly felt dizzy. Aiden helped me." Afterwards, the lady returned to her room to rest and change. Aiden, who went to call the maids, was lost in thought on his way. She asked him why he saved her. Indeed, he had always been insulted and mistreated by her. She even wanted to kill him. But, remembering the moment the lady fell from the stairs, Aiden's heart shattered. It hurt more than when she cursed him. It shattered more than when she was disappointed in him. More than when she wanted to kill him. Perhaps from the day he reached out his hand, whether in the past, present, or future, he was bound to her life. His only crime was wanting her. Having come to this realization, Aiden hurried back to the room. He wanted to ask the lady why she truly wanted to give up on life. The ceremony is about to begin. "I'm here to escort you." Lucas's appearance interrupted Aiden. He then noticed the wrinkles on the woman's dress and instructed Aiden to summon the maids to fix it. When Aiden didn't move, his eyes turned sharp. "That I'm sorry. I'll go right now." "Wait a moment, Aiden. Didn't you have something to say just now?" But Aiden remained silent. The dejection in his expression as he left was fully captured by the sharp-eyed Lucas. Selena got dressed again, and accompanied by Lucas, she entered amidst a wave of applause and confetti. The second round of the newcomer's entrance. She spotted her younger sister in the crowd at a glance. She was grinning from ear to ear, but the woman pursed her lips. "Don't smile at me like that. Because I'm not Selena. I'll be leaving this place soon. I'm leaving Princess Erin in your care." After that, the champagne was popped and the festivities began. Although she didn't have to socialize much, Selena was still sweating from exhaustion and wanted to find a place to rest. But Lucas, who had sensed trouble ahead, gave a wicked smile. "The party has only just begun. Please do your best." Even though the original owner was a tyrant, being the apple of the Dukes, I was enough for other socialites to suck up to her. Especially this bewitching lady with red hair and a red dress. In the novel, she was the original owner's right-hand woman. She had spent a fortune and exhausted her mind to get a place by the original owner's side. Who knew that when they met again, as she got a little closer, the other would take a huge step back. Her eyes and words showed she had forgotten their past. "Perhaps we were close before, but I've lost my memory. My lady, you're too close. It's making me uncomfortable." Instantly, the surrounding socialites snickered at the redhead's inability to read the room. The redhead thought, this won't do. Her previous bootlicking couldn't just be erased by a simple, "You've lost your memory." Her position by his side had to be maintained. After a moment's thought, she took this to heart. She called for Aiden and had to bring her a glass of lemonade. Xiao Hong believed Selena was a natural-born villain. If she could just create a situation for bullying, she was sure Selena would regain her memories. So when Aiden handed her the lemonade, she deliberately failed to take it properly. Spilling it all over herself, she angrily lashed out, scolding Aiden for being a useless freeloader. HTTPS. You can't even do such a simple thing right. Selena's kindness is wasted on you. Hurry up and kneel to admit your mistake. Has it been too long since you've been put in your place? Behind the crowd of gossiping onlookers, Lucas sighed with excitement, while the woman's expression slowly darkened. HTTPS. Aiden, wronged as usual, could only swallow his anger and grit his teeth. "Please, my lady, forgive me." But this time, before he could kneel, a pair of hands stopped him. "It was my lady. Stand up, Aiden." Her voice was calm, her expression unreadable. From his corner, Lucas's gaze matched hers. Then, the woman spoke, her tone seemingly casual, but filled with warning. She questioned Xiao Hong. "Today is my brother and the princess's engagement ceremony. Are you here specifically to cause trouble?" Xiao Hong panicked. First, she tried to argue that it was the servant who poured the drink on her. Then, she pleaded earnestly, "Selena, what's wrong with you? You may have forgotten, but that servant is your toy. We're the ones who are friends. I'm trying to help you get your memory back." The woman said coldly while prying Xiaohong's hand away. "So, we used to be friends. Well, not anymore. So from now on, please keep your distance from me." Watching the drama unfold to this point, Lucas felt it was about time for the farce to end. He made the excuse that the lady seemed tired and that it would be best if he escorted her back to her room to rest. The woman took the opportunity to leave, but before going, she didn't forget to call for Aiden. "You come along as well. What are you waiting for? I told you to come over." The same pair of hands reached out to him, just as they had in their first encounter. Back then, he hoped that by taking her hand, he would no longer have to suffer beatings and cold. Now, he hopes that by taking her hand, he will never have to let go. "Listen carefully. Your master is me, so you don't have to listen to anyone else." Aiden agreed in his heart. "At all times, my master is you." Out loud, however, he said with a slight smile, "How could I dare to refuse the request of a noble?" Hearing this, Selena, with a serious face, decided to playfully show off, giving him a live demonstration of what it means to have overwhelming power. At first, the nobles were baffled, until one who knew how to play along let out a couple of dry laughs. In an instant, the room erupted in laughter. Selena was extremely satisfied. She had shown Aiden that in the entire empire, besides the imperial family, she was the most powerful. When she told them to laugh, no one dared to cry. Aiden's emerald eyes rippled with wonder. He never thought that my lady would go out of her way to prove this to him. Among the crowd, only Xiaohong was furious. She had worked so hard to latch onto someone powerful. HTTPS. Just then, she noticed her father's grim gaze from behind her, and she couldn't help but shiver. But after the engagement ceremony, the woman began having the same dream every night. In the dream, the original owner was crying beautifully, like a pear blossom in the rain, seemingly wanting to say something more. HTTPS. Unfortunately, she couldn't hear it, and it was frustrating. She was someone who had done all sorts of evil things. What is there to feel wronged about? Am I not the one who has to clean up your mess? Anyway, I've already done what needed to be done. Soon, I'll be going to the same place as you, so stop rushing me. Hearing this, the original owner cried even harder. And every time the dream reached this point, the woman would wake up. On this day, she had finally recovered some of her energy. After a long discussion with the Duke and Duchess, they reluctantly agreed to let her go out with Lucas. The head maid was very worried, repeatedly asking, "My lady, are you sure you don't need me and Aiden to accompany you?" Although Aiden didn't say a word, his expression was filled with concern. These complex emotions couldn't escape Lucas's eyes. "Aiden, how about you control your expression a little? If you don't want others to notice your feelings, that is." His thoughts exposed, Aiden blushed and tried to deny it. But in the eyes of the sharp Lucas, it was useless. "That I hope you can be more discreet. If not for the lady's reputation, then for your own safety." Lucas's arrogant words stung Aiden. Indeed, how dare a mere servant harbor feelings for the Duke's daughter? But Aiden didn't dare to show his love openly. It wasn't that he feared the world's ridicule. He kept his love carefully hidden, only fearing that the young lady would be disgusted with him if she found out. Meanwhile, the two who had left the Duke's mansion took a carriage to the bustling city center. But Selena felt overwhelmed by the crowd, becoming nauseous and wanting to vomit. It was probably because she hadn't seen so many people in her past life. They found a secluded spot. Lucas mistakenly thought she had heat stroke and thoughtfully wiped her face with a cool, wet cloth to help. Selena, however, was a little confused. Since a moment ago, Lucas had been calling her directly by her name. She remembered the Lucas from the novel as a very formal person. He was being so casual with her, like a friend. "What? Are you trying to be friends with me? Do you want to be friends?" His initial wariness was gone, replaced by a hint of anticipation and sincerity. Forget it. The woman had already resolved to die. She was only here today to find a suitable tombstone. She ate the snack the man brought back, staring dumbfounded at the clock tower ahead. "It's so high. A jump from here would surely kill me instantly." She wondered if Lucas had read her mind. "You can't get up there. Don't even think about it." Just then, a commotion was heard from nearby. An arrogant nobleman was speeding his carriage through the narrow street, hitting a panicked commoner, but then turning to blame the victim. And money wasn't enough. He also wanted to teach the commoner a lesson. Lucas was used to such scenes. He got up, about to lead the woman away before a larger crowd gathered. But to his surprise, Selena was a step ahead of him, heading in the opposite direction. "If that man swings his cane at me, can you stop him? I don't want to get hit." After Lucas agreed, he paused, surprised. He wondered what she was planning to do. Perhaps it was this scene. The boy, curled up and protecting his head, reminded her so much of herself under her adoptive parents' hands in her past life, and also of someone who had quietly entered her heart since she came here. So she stepped in front of the boy without a second thought. A nobleman speeding in his carriage hit a commoner, but blamed the victim and tried to strike him. The Duke's daughter, who only wished for death, couldn't stand it. She could die, but people who were trying so hard to live deserved to survive. How dare a little girl interfere, the nobleman thought. How noble can she be, dressed so shabbily, he thought, and angrily told the woman to mind her own business. If nobles like me don't punish these people's parents and set an example for them, wouldn't the order of this world collapse? This shameless twisting of the truth was too much even for the onlookers, who began to intervene. Selena said nothing. She just glanced at the cane in the stout man's hand, snatched it, and with a crack, broke it over her own knee. The stout man was stunned. "What are you doing, hurting yourself? A noble wouldn't be so selfless." "I'm calling the guards on you." "Perfect. When the guards arrive, I'll accuse you of hitting my knee with your cane. If you can be shameless, then so can I." Lucas burst out laughing. She was truly a master at turning the tables. The spark of justice instantly spread like wildfire. The bystanders were no longer just watching. "Don't worry, miss. When the guards arrive, we will all testify for you." Seeing he was outnumbered, the stout man had no choice but to retreat. But his eyes screamed, "You'll pay for this." The woman didn't care. Instead, she knelt to comfort the boy. "There are many strange people in this world, so you have to be very careful to survive. Right now, the strangest person here is you. Let's go." Walking beside Selena, Lucas noticed a crease on her dress. "Doesn't it hurt?" he asked. "You said you didn't want to get hit, but you ended up hitting yourself. You don't look well. I'll find a less crowded street and take you back to the mansion to recover. But before that, I'll take care of those rats." After leaving, the stout man had returned with a dozen thugs. He was determined to make sure this man and woman wouldn't leave alive. With a lady present, Lucas didn't want to make a bloody mess. "Hand over all your valuables. The best way to deal with this is to pay up." The brutes were completely oblivious to the approaching danger. "We'll take the money and the woman. Our master specifically ordered us to bring back that arrogant wench." But as soon as the words were out, the color of the man's eyes changed. "How dare you speak of harming his lady in front of a knight? Killing you in any way would not be an overreaction." Lucas was ready to unleash hell, but Selena stopped him. If this escalates, the Duke and Duchess would surely worry about her and forbid her from leaving the house. That would interfere with her suicide plan. "You're a bunch of lucky rats. Thanks to this lady, you get to walk away." The brutes were infuriated by the taunt. "You dare to be so arrogant all by yourself? Get him, brothers." But facing the attack, the man wasn't flustered at all. Instead, he pulled the woman into his arms. "Pardon my rudeness. They say holding a girl in your arms boosts your damage." That saying is certainly true. Lucas not only defended flawlessly, but could also counterattack, all while holding back. Poor Selena, however, was being held so tightly she could barely breathe. So she protested, "Do we have to be in this position?" Lucas gave her another option: that "Don't keep your hands behind you. Bring them to the front. Grab my clothes tightly." A few seconds later, the woman, blushing, did as he said. After all, it was a critical moment in the fight. Seeing her being so docile for a change, a smile unconsciously touched his eyes. Then, in the sunlight, they looked as if they had become one. But trying not to be a hindrance was exhausting. Selena's hand, clutching his clothes, began to tremble. Sensing this, Lucas glanced at her to check her condition. He saw the small woman, her eyes and mouth shut tight in obedience. A smile unconsciously touched the corners of his lips. He resolved to hold Selena in his arms even tighter until it was all over. Only when a voice in his heart told him to stop did he gently release her. "Stand steady. If you feel dizzy, just tell me. I'll find a place for you to sit and rest." At that moment, Selena had used up almost all her remaining energy. She just wanted to hurry home. But unexpectedly, as they were walking, she suddenly collapsed. Lucas rushed over in a panic, vexed. Is she hurt after all? When did this happen? I was so careful to protect her. But after sitting her down by the roadside and finding out the reason, the man was utterly exasperated. It turned out that when she broke her cane, she had also shattered her own kneecap. What do you mean, shattered? It's just shattered. Are there different kinds? Lucas considered this and reached out to assess the injury and figure out a treatment. But as his hand got close, Selena cried out, "Don't touch me. It will definitely hurt if you move, so stay still." After he spoke, she unexpectedly lifted the hem of her skirt without any hesitation. "Don't mind me, I'm just looking." Lucas was both shocked and embarrassed. While taking off his coat to cover her, he chided her, "You're a noble lady. How can you just lift your skirt in public?" But then his eyes were drawn to the swollen, purple bruise. He grew angry again, blaming the woman. "If you're hurt, you should have just said so." Just then, a male voice was heard as a stranger approached. Lucas immediately stood protectively in front of Selena. The man introduced himself. His name was Lien, and he was a priest. He revealed the emblem of the temple that, if you're injured, I can help. Lucas was still hesitant. Selena, however, asked for his help. Despite Lien's unassuming appearance, his abilities were top-notch. He placed his hand lightly on her knee. As he chanted an incantation, a green light flashed, and the wound was restored, leaving the pair completely stunned. They apologized profusely before parting. On the way back, Lucas watched Selena, who couldn't stop yawning. Lucas recalled the priest's explanation for why he helped that, "I saw the young lady saving the boy from those ruffians. Her kindness in caring for the weak, even at the risk of putting herself in danger, was truly inspiring to me." He recalled the recent events. She, who was once notoriously ill-tempered, would now apologize for her own mistakes and learn to consider others' feelings. She would express concern for the weak and offer them help. Can a person really change that much? It's as if a different soul has taken over this body. Suddenly, the afterglow of the setting sun swept across Lucas's face, dazzling him for a moment and waking him from his trance. Noticing the emptiness in the woman's eyes, he followed her gaze out the window. It was the clock tower they had passed during the day. Lucas was suddenly alarmed. She still wants to kill herself, and whenever she sees the sunset, she gets caught up in residual memories, unable to break free that "I won't let you die." Many people couldn't sleep that night. Aiden tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. His mind was troubled by both Lucas's warning from the morning and his chance encounter with the magicians at dusk. At the time, he was with a maid picking flowers for the young lady's room, worrying because the sun was about to set and she hadn't returned yet. Just then, the sound of horse hooves was heard. Aiden quickly put on his coat and went outside. It was a carriage, but two unfamiliar faces got out of the carriage. They were dressed in the distinctive dark blue uniforms of magicians. On their chests were pinned the magician's exclusive silver brooches. The sight made Aiden stare, his eyes filled with longing and aspiration. The old white-haired man also noticed Aiden, sensing the surging magical power within him. He grinned, showing his white teeth as a form of greeting. Hearing the butler address the old man as Lord, Aiden guessed he must be a noble. Then the magician behind him, could he be a commoner, just like him? But after that fleeting moment of joy, Aiden sat up, looking at the crest hanging on the wall. He realized they were ultimately different. Thinking of this, he lost all desire to sleep. He walked to the window, wondering if the origin of magic came from the moon. Why would he possess such a power? Lucas, also sleepless, swirled the red wine in his glass. Even though more than a decade had passed, he still couldn't escape the memory of that day's sunset. In truth, Lucas had also led a bitter life. After his aunt seized his family's fortune, they became impoverished, fallen nobles. To avoid ridicule, his father could only hide his identity and go out to work early in the morning. Fortunately, the family loved and supported each other. On bright days, his parents would play with him. Unfortunately, his mother's health was poor. Every time he saw her lying in bed, looking gaunt and frail, little Lucas's heart would ache. He was willing to go hungry and endure the cold. The only thing he couldn't bear was the thought of his sick mother leaving him. He prayed to the gods at every moment, asking them to make his mother well again. He also hated his aunt, who was the reason his mother couldn't afford treatment. But anger couldn't overcome poverty. For the sake of his mother's medical expenses for a year, his father decided to take his uncle's place and join the monster subjugation squad. Before leaving, his father saw the reluctance in his son's eyes. "It's all right, Dad will come back safely. I'm entrusting your mother to you. I love you." But things didn't go as promised. In the 4th month, he had to go to his aunt's. No matter how he cried and pleaded that day, the people inside the gate refused to open it. Finally, the gate opened, only for a bag of money to be thrown out. Get lost. This is the last time. If you come again, I'll break your legs. At that moment, the light of the sunset shone on little Lucas's face. He didn't even have time to be sad. He had to get medicine from the clinic as quickly as possible. Holding the money, he knelt on the ground. "Doctor, I'm begging you. My mother is critically ill." But the man only cared about the money. "This isn't even enough for a house call." He just shut the door, not caring at all who might die. Clutching the money, little Lucas thought, "No one cares about my mother. I have to take even better care of her." The sunset was now fading, and night was about to fall. Little Lucas ran desperately towards home. Mom will be scared if she's alone for too long. But he never expected that this would be the last time he would see her. Perhaps the woman, who could no longer bear it, had long wanted to be free. She was just waiting for her son to return for one last moment, to use her remaining strength to gently caress his cheek. Little Lucas tightly held his mother's already withered hand. The next second, it slipped from his grasp. Even though he cried until his throat was hoarse, she would never open her eyes and smile at him again. All that was left was a desolate, grassy grave. The money that wasn't enough for medicine was also not enough for a coffin and a grave. After hastily burying his mother, little Lucas shut himself in all day. He would wake up and cry himself to sleep, only to wake up and cry again. He didn't eat or drink for who knows how long, until there was a knock at the door. It was his father, who had been gone for so long without a word, calling for his mother in a familiar voice. Tears flowed once more from those lifeless eyes. Little Lucas haltingly told of his mother's passing. Heartbroken, his father pulled his son into an embrace. The wandering soul had finally found a place to rest. In an instant, his cries shook the heavens. All his grievances and sorrow poured out like a flood. The man shed tears in silence. Suddenly, little Lucas noticed something. "Dad, where's your left arm?" Looking back on the past, the wine glass in Lucas's hand creaked under his grip. At that moment, he had made a resolution to survive to the very end in this filthy world. To achieve this goal, he had to become stronger, much stronger. Fortunately, Duke White became his steadfast patron. To thank his father for saving his life, the Duke offered to sponsor his education until he was grown and successful. From then on, Lucas wore a false mask for self-protection. Only with the Duke's family would he show his true self. Just then, Aaron appeared at the door, holding a bottle of 82 Lafite. Full of worries, he saw the light on in the wine cellar and guessed his best friend must be there. Worried about his sister's condition, he couldn't sleep well either, although she acts as if nothing is wrong around us. "I always feel uneasy. I feel like she could disappear at any moment." While Lucas had thought Selena's condition had stabilized, he thought of her face, still devoid of any will to live. The man shook his head. However, he seemed to have found a breakthrough. "That priestess named Lien has innate healing powers. Maybe she can mend the hole in Selena's heart." Aaron was overjoyed to hear this, wishing he could leave for the temple to beg for her help at once. But after his friend left, Lucas pondered as he felt the evening breeze. Such an incredible priestess. Why isn't she sought after by everyone? The temple would have no reason to pass up such a great publicity opportunity. Suddenly, under the twinkling starlight, he caught sight of Aiden standing there. He let out a soft chuckle. "Looks like many people in the manor can't sleep tonight." Hearing this, Aiden turned and saw the man's thoughtful smile. Remembering the earlier scolding, he was filled with resentment. So he gave a deep bow as a greeting and turned to return to his room. Seeing this, Lucas leaped down, clearly having something to say. "I'll be going out with young Master Aaron for a few days, starting tomorrow. During this time, you must watch over the young lady carefully. Don't let anything happen to her, and don't get any funny ideas." The condescending tone of his words displeased Aiden. He knew that, given his status, he should agree humbly, but for some reason, he didn't want to submit. So he replied coldly, "You don't need to concern yourself. As the young lady's attendant, I will of course prioritize her safety." But this wasn't the answer Lucas was looking for. He resolutely stopped Aiden from leaving, re-emphasizing the importance of his words. "When I'm not here, you must stop the young lady from going out. And even if she does go out, you must never let her near the clock tower. Seeing he couldn't win the argument, Aiden resentfully acknowledged that he understood. Early the next morning, Selena saw her brother Aaron off. "Sister, take care of yourself during the 2 days I'm away." Little did he know, while she agreed verbally, in her heart she was thinking, "Farewell forever. My kind Aaron, who has always loved his sister, please forgive them both. One, the person who caused you so much suffering, and the other, the fake sister who failed your expectations." For the first time, she took his hand. "Have a safe trip, brother." Just these simple words were enough to move Aaron to his core. Unfortunately, their tender moment was interrupted. Lucas, with a smile as gentle as water, said, "I'll be right back." Aaron was annoyed that his rare chance to be close to his sister was ruined. After a brief silence, the woman realized that she probably wouldn't see Lucas again. He had suffered because of her. "Have a safe trip. Please take care of my brother." Beside them, Aaron's gaze was sharp. How could his precious sister be so intimate with another man? He was about to pull his friend away, but Lucas looked at Aiden behind the woman. First, his lips moved, silently mouthing the words "clock tower." Then, turning to Aiden, he said, "Remember my request. I'm entrusting her to you." Later, in the carriage, Aaron wouldn't stop scolding his friend, that scoundrel who wouldn't let go of his sister's hand. Even he, her brother, had only just managed to hold her hand today. Lucas was amused, joking that his sister would hold someone else's hand one day. "Have you never thought about that? In that case, why don't I take Selena with me?" Aaron immediately exploded, warning his friend that this was not a joke to be made lightly. Then he sighed. Before his sister lost her memory, she did show signs of affection for his friend. But at that time, his friend wasn't interested in his sister. Recently, his sister had changed, and his friend's feelings had also changed. But even though Lucas was Aaron's most precious friend, and Aaron was loyal enough to die for him, he absolutely could not hand over his sister, because he knew better than anyone about the man's loneliness and sins. His sister, like Lucas, needed someone gentle who could make her smile. Only the warm spring sun can dispel the winter's chill. Two people who are similarly cold, how could they soothe each other's pain? Just then, they passed the clock tower. Lucas said grimly, "I really don't like this place. Can't we just tear it down?" This made Aaron even more convinced that this man was not the right one for his sister. Meanwhile, as they headed to the temple in search of Lien, the woman took action. She carefully sorted through party invitations. She wondered which party would make it easiest to get close to the clock tower. After looking through them one by one and tearing up the unsatisfactory ones, Aiden, watching nervously from the side, called out to her. He was afraid the sharp edges of the paper would cut her. So, he took a small knife and slit open all the remaining envelopes, so she wouldn't have to do it herself. The woman couldn't help but gaze at his side profile. At that moment, she felt her heart flutter. But when Aiden looked over, she quickly averted her gaze, staring at the invitation in her hand for Miss Vivian's Rose Garden Party. She had found her target. The next day, Selena used the excuse of buying a dress for the party to arrange an outing for just the two of them. Upon hearing this news, Aiden forgot about serving tea and hurried back to his room to carefully examine himself in the mirror. Is my bow tie straight? Is my hair messy? But after his thoughts calmed down, he lowered his head in frustration. How ridiculous. What was he overthinking? Even though he knew this outing had no other meaning, he was still overjoyed, because she wasn't going with Lucas or her brother. She chose me. Being in love can make one lose their judgment, perhaps just like Aiden, who had completely forgotten Lucas's warning before he left. He also didn't know that while he was overwhelmed with affection, the woman was saying her goodbyes. She was grateful to her master who had worked so hard for her, and to the person who made her feel loved and even want to love in return. And to this loyal man who, for her, the fake sister, held a parasol high with both hands, never tiring. Seeing this, the woman pulled his hand, drawing him closer. Isn't it easier to block the sun if you're a little closer? After saying this, she also said a silent goodbye in her heart to Aiden, who had always been sacrificing for her. It was a pity that none of this truly belonged to her. The woman had originally planned to make an excuse at the dessert shop and slip away before they went to the dressmaker's. But just as she stood up, Aiden, who had been engrossed in the menu, immediately put it down and stared at her eagerly. The woman was certain that if she were to disappear, he wouldn't take a single bite until she returned. Thinking of this, he sat down again. The cloyingly sweet cake was muddling his thoughts. He was annoyed. Life wasn't meant for standing still, but Aiden deserved to enjoy this moment of leisure. For his sake, she would stay a little longer. And Aiden was different from his reserved self at the ducal manor. He looked very relaxed. She spoke freely, casually chatting about his future. She asked if he had ever considered finding something he loved to do and becoming independent from the ducal manor, like opening a dessert shop like this. Aiden didn't understand the woman's intentions. He had, in fact, thought about leaving and had even calculated the money and time required for independence. That was the beacon of his faith, but now he felt helpless and alone again. He had planned on the magic tower being the next stage of his life. I'm not thinking about that anymore. I just want to serve you, my lady, at least until you are married. Aiden spoke with such earnestness, his affection was plain to see. Just then, the chiming of a nearby clock hurried them along. The woman came back to her senses. It was time to go. Perhaps when she was gone, he could do as he pleased and live a freer life. Upon arriving at the dress shop, they saw Vivian already waiting outside to greet them. The ever-so-proud ducal lady had actually accepted her invitation. She had even asked her to go shopping. Vivian was absolutely thrilled. The shop owner also hurried over, eagerly presenting the various new designer pieces of the season. This was a golden opportunity. If she could get in the ducal family's good graces, her future would be boundless. Selena scanned the room. Her eyes, however, landed on a plain, unadorned dress in the corner. The white one especially, like a hawk, seemed a perfect match for her final, fatal leap. She complimented the shop, then asked with all these decorations, "I trust you have an emergency exit in case of a fire." The shopkeeper replied naively, "Of course. It's right behind the fitting rooms. We take our customers' safety very seriously." Selena was about to probe for more information when a commotion erupted. It was a young lady she had blocked from her social circle. She was about to strike the guard who was blocking her way. "Stop it, Lady Lapel." Xiao Hong was stunned to see that the one who had booked the entire shop was Selena. Furious, she turned to leave. Ever since the princess's engagement banquet, her father had once again cast her aside as useless. All her sycophantic efforts had been for nothing. To be disgraced over a mere servant. He had said, "Don't you dare get involved with the ducal family's affairs again." But unexpectedly, Selena called out to her, "We're old acquaintances. Let's shop together. I happen to need a distraction." As expected, Xiao Hong did not disappoint. She and Vivian immediately started clashing. The shopkeeper was stunned into disbelief, while the attendants snickered at her servile manner. But the sensitive Xiao Hong assumed they were laughing at her. "Who told you to laugh? What's so funny?" Her outburst left Selena at a loss. Aiden was still standing right there. "Have you forgotten?" Selena said coolly that I am the only one who gets to treat my people as I please. Her domineering words flustered them both. But just as desserts were served, Selena said, "Aiden, I'm a little cold. Can you go buy me some cold medicine?" The ever-thoughtful Aiden returned not only with cold medicine, but also a blanket, macarons, and lemonade. But that couldn't sway her grim determination. "I want the strawberry-flavored remedy powder. It has to be the powder. Can you buy it for me?" Aiden was in a dilemma. He didn't want to disobey his lady, but he was worried about leaving her alone. To lower his guard, she said, "Don't worry. Aren't Vivian, her knight, and her attendants still here?" Vivian chimed in, yes. We'll all stay with the ducal lady." Aiden reluctantly gave in. Before leaving, he asked again and again, "My lady, you will wait for me here? You won't leave, will you?" He felt foolish even as he asked. But the woman just evaded his question. "Go now." Not calling out her deception was his final act of kindness. The moment Aiden was gone, Selena, seeing that Xiao Hong and Vivian were bickering, turned to the shopkeeper. "I want to try on that dress." A person walked into the fitting room, taking off their luxurious coat. She changed into a simple white dress. Her eyes were blinded by a dead heart. The woman could no longer hear the voice of the one who loved her. She opened the emergency exit door. Meanwhile, Lucas and his brother traveled thousands of miles to the temple, only to find the divine Leanne and ask him to come and help heal her broken heart. But no matter how Lucas and Aaron tried to persuade him, Leanne, terrified, kept repeating that he couldn't do it, although he was born with the divine power of all things and had a heart full of compassion for the world. He had been subjected to years of suppression and psychological manipulation by the temple. Leanne was led to believe that his abilities were nothing special and that he had to be careful not to casually bewitch others. Otherwise, he would tarnish the name of the gods. Meanwhile, the Duke was just handling his duties a moment ago. But after hearing that his daughter had ditched the knight, he immediately gathered his men to search for Selena. This scene was witnessed by the Duchess. The mother collapsed to the floor on the verge of tears. Was she going to lose her daughter again? Meanwhile, Aiden didn't quite believe that cold medicine could come in a strawberry powder mix. Yet he ran through every street and alley just because the young lady said she wanted it. He stood on the street empty-handed. His heart pounded with an inexplicable anxiety. Many confusing thoughts filled his mind. He recalled the young lady's words before she turned and ran away. He ran as fast as he could, wishing he could be back at the dress shop in the next second. But when he arrived, the shop owner wore a troubled expression. Mediating between the noble ladies was too exhausting. It was then that she realized the young lady had been in the fitting room for a long time. Aiden, disregarding the distinctions between men and women and of status, flung open the curtain. The empty room before him made his heart sink. Lucas's warning from that night came back to him. He began to realize that things were not as simple as they seemed. When the words clock tower popped into his mind, he frantically found the emergency exit leading to the street. Before leaving, he asked the shop owner to send someone to the Duke's residence to inform them that the young lady had gone to the clock tower. He then issued a threat. If those two ladies found out about this and spread malicious rumors about the young lady, they wouldn't be able to walk freely in the Empire again. With that said, he bolted down the street like an arrow, but it still felt too slow. Did you leave me just to do this? To send me away and then climb the clock tower? I'm coming right now. Whatever you're planning, I'm on my way. Please wait for me. But the woman was already sitting by the window at the top of the tower, wondering why, in this life, she still thought of them before her death. Her poor, sickly little sister. The sister who always clung to her, who needed her. I've been waiting for you, sister. You get to go to school and work. But how long do I have to lie in this sickbed? Will you get tired of me one day? To soothe her sister, she would hold her, pat her back, and say, don't cry. I'll read your favorite novel to you. Thinking back, if she had a last wish, it would be that if they met in hell, her sister would let her hit her just once. So she had to wait for her with a healthy face, so she could finally get angry at her for once. As the woman sat by the window, Aiden, who had chased her for miles, burst in. Seeing the young lady again, meeting her eyes, Aiden's frantic, panicked heart almost stopped. He noticed the shoes placed in the corner, as if foreshadowing what was to come. He approached heavily, his voice hoarse. My lady, please come down from there. The woman cut him off. Don't come any closer. Didn't I tell you to leave? Why did you come back? The distance between them wasn't far, yet it felt like they were separated by mountains and seas. Go on your own path, she continued. Your future will surely be bright. I'm sorry for the dark times you went through because of me. Pain can never be forgotten. So, let's just set it aside for now. To live is to learn to let go of memories, to try and move forward. He couldn't grasp the contrast of this realization. After all, he had no expectations of his own. Wouldn't it be nice if we could walk on together? But I have decided that this is as far as I go. Without giving the man another word, she threw herself down. Regardless of whether he had brought her tears or joy in the past, she was grateful to him for accompanying her this far. Seeing this, Aiden didn't hesitate and jumped down after his young lady. He only hated that he had reacted too slowly, failing to grab her in time. He only prayed to the gods for their mercy. He could lose everything, abandon it all, even sacrifice himself. He only begged the gods not to let the young lady die. Perhaps his heartfelt plea worked a miracle. Aiden, who had magic but didn't know how to use it, unexpectedly summoned a magical formation in an instant. Thousands of strands of light surrounded the woman. Not only did her rapid descent stop, but she also floated in the air for a moment. This gave Aiden a window to reach her side and hold her tightly, although they still couldn't escape the fate of crashing heavily to the ground. But they were one body. After breaking in what felt like 9,999 places, they rolled across a vast distance. Aiden's arms, holding her tightly, were crushed by the impact. Pain spread like a scorching fire. But when he struggled to open his eyes, Aiden's first thought was of the young lady. He found her, checked on her, called out to her. But the woman didn't respond, as if she had stopped breathing. Her face was pale, and the piercing sight of blood stained her clothes and the hellish ground. At that moment, Aiden's remaining faith collapsed. He couldn't help but wonder what was the point of this thing called magic. He couldn't even use it at the most crucial moment. And for the first time, he felt resentment toward the young lady. How could you give up your life so selfishly, leaving me all alone? He stood there, stunned, for who knows how long, until the Duke, having received the news, arrived on horseback. When he saw his precious daughter lying on the cold ground in a pool of her own blood, he trembled and wept. Aiden just stared blankly, without a word. Suddenly, the Duke felt a faint breath. She was still breathing. She was still alive. Quickly, send a messenger to the temple to find Aaron. Tell him to bring the priest with healing abilities. The surrounding panic slowly roused Aiden. Light returned to his eyes, and hope began to grow wildly. He staggered to his feet. He asked the Duke, "We just need to go to the temple and find the priest with healing powers." The thought that the young lady wasn't dead, that perhaps she wouldn't die, forced Aiden to calm down. He silently chanted, "Take me to Lord Aaron," trying his best to picture the temple. In an instant, he vanished in a flash of starlight. A portal appeared before him. Stepping through it, he instantly arrived at the temple thousands of miles away. Aiden appeared, covered in wounds. Lucas immediately sensed something was wrong. "What happened?" he demanded. "Please help me. The young lady, she's dying." She jumped from the stone tower. Her head is gravely injured. Her condition is critical. Hearing this, Lucas and Aaron immediately shouted, "Lien, priest, you're the only one who can save that child now. Please help us." The Duke's daughter's life is in grave danger, but Lien was hesitant. He wasn't confident he could bring someone back from the brink of death. Aiden dropped to his knees with a thud, sobbing and pleading, "Lord Priest, I beg you. Please, you must save my young lady. For her pitiful sake, please give her another chance to live. I will pray to the gods and offer everything I have in return." Lien couldn't refuse in the face of such tears, only hoping his abilities would truly be of use. Lucas immediately ordered someone to unhitch the carriage so they could ride the horses back faster. But Aiden pulled the priest to his side. He intended to use the portal again, to race against death and keep the young lady by his side. The unassuming male servant was actually a powerful magic user. Lucas and Aaron were utterly astonished, but the priority was to save Selena. Unexpectedly, Aaron collapsed to the ground. He blamed himself for being such a terrible brother. Before leaving, he was still so happy about holding his sister's hand. It turned out to be a final farewell, and he hadn't even noticed. As Lucas comforted his best friend, he gritted his teeth in silent rage. Did you desire death that much? To pursue it so desperately that you would abandon all of us? Why? Fortunately, the woman's body had been sent back to the ducal manor, but the doctor did everything in his power for her. And still, the bleeding wouldn't stop. At this rate, she probably wouldn't make it through the night. The Duchess, accompanying her, forced herself to remain standing. An attendant brought a stool for the Duchess to sit and wait. That's not necessary. My child is still hovering between life and death. Wake up, Selena. Mother is waiting for you. But the woman's soul kept falling through the darkness. She thought this was the only way to reach the gates of hell. It was a fitting thought for her, who had jumped from a building twice. Suddenly, a butterfly appeared. The butterfly circled around her. The woman paused her descent, wondering if this could be the incarnation of the body's original owner. "I finally get to see you, Selena. It's all over now. Your ending wasn't as tragic as it was in the original story. The people around you are grieving your death, so you're not alone. Don't cry in sorrow anymore. Rest in peace." But though she spoke for a long time, the butterfly didn't respond. Instead, there seemed to be a faint mirror before her. She reached out to touch it. Strangely, although it reflected Selena's face, it wasn't mirroring her movements. Just as she was feeling confused, she heard a familiar call from behind her. "Sister, look at me. Is this the first time you've seen my hair so long?" The woman tightened her grip on the girl's shoulders in disbelief, but the eyes of her seemingly frail sister were full of a sharp glint. "What? Are you really going to hit me, sister?" Even though she had lived a lifetime of abuse and control because of this sister, she still embraced her. In truth, resentment was never what filled her heart the most. Her sister wondered why she was here too. "I jumped. Why? Don't you find me annoying, sister?" As they spoke, the scene changed to a movie theater. On the screen, scenes from the woman's life were playing. She was abandoned by her parents. She found a new family. She lost love and became an unwanted person. She chose to end her life. The woman covered her sister's eyes. "You don't need to see this." But her sister smiled and said she had seen it many times. It was only at this moment that she realized what kind of treatment her older sister had endured. "I have a question for you too, sister. When you were 10, did you really plan to kill me in my sleep?" Hearing this, the woman fell silent as the memory flooded back. She remembered getting a perfect score on a test when she was 10. She wanted to be praised by her mother, but her mother not only tore up the test paper, but also scolded her. Your sister is so sick, she has to go to the hospital, and you're showing off a perfect score? How dare you? She trembled and apologized over and over, watching from afar as her mother lovingly patted her sleeping sister. That gaze was so sweet, but it was a sweetness that made her own heart ache. It was like the beautiful bottle filled with colorful candies that her parents had given her before her sister was born, something she desperately longed for. Just then, her mother had to take a phone call and told her to watch her sister. A venomous thought coiled in her mind. She reached out her hand. If I strangle her right now, can I have that love back? If she disappeared, could my life go back to the way it was? Just as her hand drew closer, its fingertips almost touching the collar, her hair was suddenly yanked, and she was thrown viciously to the side. What do you think you're doing? You ungrateful wretch. Without a chance to explain, he was met with a storm of punches and kicks. He was locked in the small dark room. His tears flowed unstoppably, like a shattered porcelain vase. It was only then she realized, I can never be happy again. But the mother who had pulled her hand away was now tightly holding her sister's. No, I didn't want to kill you, and I couldn't. I can't let you suffer, because you're my sister. I just wanted to help you adjust your slipping collar. The gloom that had been troubling the younger sister instantly dissipated. The only thing she wanted to understand was her sister's love for her. In truth, it was about who brought her sister into this world. Everyone has many lives. Selena from the novel is your unknown past life. I truly love the sister who stayed by my side, even when I was being willful. I never thought that it was my fault you were isolated. I was slowly killing you. So I prayed to God to let my poor sister live once more, in a life without a sick younger sister, and without selfish parents. A life where you would naturally be loved. Learning that she was Selena after the shock was the realization that she could be loved and cherished by so many people, and that all this love truly belonged to her, which made her yearn for it for a moment. The sister also seemed to understand why she had tried to end her life. A child starved of love, just to hold on to a shred of affection, will crush their own identity to please others. You must have thought Selena's soul wanted to die, and that's why you tried to kill yourself, right? You thought that was the only thing you could do for Selena. We're the ones who made you think that way, believing you could only live by being useful to others. From now on, sister, don't live for others anymore, and don't die for others anymore. Just be yourself. But the hope was fleeting. It's too late. I can't go back. No, you can go back. Selena's physical body is still holding on. It was Aiden who teleported back with the life-saving divine priest. He arrived at the bedside of his beloved lady. Though he was so weak he could barely stand, he told the divine priest to ignore him. Hurry, hurry, and save the young lady. Then, covered in wounds himself, he leaned against the wall. His companion urged him to get bandaged and rest. Aiden refused to listen. He stared straight ahead, his eyes fixed. He wanted to guard his light, unwilling to leave her side for even a moment. After the divine priest's tireless efforts, he finally closed his eyes and collapsed from exhaustion. The Duke had him carried back to his room. Meanwhile, the doctor looked towards the bed. To his surprise, the young lady's bleeding had stopped and all her external wounds had healed. She was only out of immediate danger. Her true condition would only be known when she wakes up. The Duchess's heart was still in her throat. My poor child. Just then, her brother, who had ridden 8 horses to their deaths, and Lucas also rushed back. After confirming that Selena was safe, they breathed a long sigh of relief. Now, all of them were just waiting for her to come back to them. That night, the entire ducal manor was lit up as bright as day. The head chef kept the fires burning, ready to make soup the moment it was needed. The maids and servants all gathered outside the young lady's room, waiting quietly for instructions, hoping to offer what little help they could. But the butler told them all to go and rest. Just leave the night duty staff. It was strange. The one who was once an undeniable villainess, rejected by all, was now receiving so much love and concern. An attendant asked her personal maid, "Will the young lady wake up?" Without a moment's hesitation, she replied, "Of course." The man couldn't help his curiosity. "I remember you didn't enjoy serving the young lady before. Why do you seem so genuine now?" Jane replied, "Isn't everyone here the same? Anyone who has seen the young lady these past few months has been melted by her warmth." The attendant also sighed with emotion. The changed young lady was truly astonishing. She would insist on holding her own umbrella when it rained, afraid that they would get wet holding it for her. That's why she said everyone was a fool. She was so unkind before. She was nice to us just once, and we're like this. She must live on and be good to us more. But the woman's soul fell into a long silence until her younger sister tentatively asked, "Are you scared, sister? Scared that our family will be disappointed in you?" Yes, the moment she jumped from the high tower, everyone must have gone through something indescribable for her. The person they loved with all their hearts tried to end her lifetime and again. Could they truly let go of the past and reconcile? The thought of being hated by her own parents, of being tiresome to those close to her, the woman wasn't sure if she would regret not having died completely. Just then, her sister reached out and caressed her cheek, signaling for her to look up. "Can you hear those voices? They're all calling for you, sister." Mother's waiting, father's sorrow, brother's remorse, Lucans's fatherly scolding, the attendant's tearful joy, and the encouragement from the priest, doctor, and butler. As the woman listened, her eyes turned red. It seemed they could truly forgive and forget. Suddenly, a male voice filled with sorrow broke into her heart. "My lady, can you hear my voice? If you can hear me, I beg you to come back to my side. There are still things I haven't told you." Aiden's words made the redness spread from her eyes, and with a rumbling sound, a train appeared. Seeing the train stop behind her sister, "Have you finally decided to go back?" "Yes, I have to go." Perhaps for the last time, she held her sister's hand and touched her head. "I wish you a long and happy life from now on, sister, so as not to waste the first gift she gave you. We'll meet again someday. We must meet again. But the living and the dead are worlds apart, with no place to speak of sorrow, only tears remain." As the wheels of the train turned, moving farther and farther away, as she ran, unable to catch up to the train, as the wind carried her sister's voice away, making it impossible for her to hear, she cried out, "I'm sorry. I never understood you, sister. I'm sorry. As family, I shouldn't have been like that. I'm truly sorry." The older sister, worried, watched her younger sister run after the train. The older sister cried out in panic, "You fool, don't run. You'll get hurt." But at that very moment, she awoke from her grief. Staring at the familiar ceiling, hot tears slid from the corners of her eyes. Meanwhile, the younger sister, who had watched the train disappear, joked with the deity, "My sister is so foolish. I made her suffer so much." But in the end, her worry for you stopped her. She once again thanked the deity for giving her sister a chance to start over. But the deity asked in return, "Are you sure you're okay?" as the prize for giving your sister her life. Now, the younger sister placed a hand to her lips, but it's all right. This is our secret. Let the one who lived as a sister die for her sister. And so, in the end, the younger sister's new, love-filled life remained a secret, staring at the familiar ceiling. Hot tears slid from the woman's eyes, and Aaron was the first to notice she was awake. His voice trembled. He rushed to the bedside and tightly gripped his sister's hand, exclaiming to everyone, "Serena's awake." Instantly, everyone crowded around, asking her how she felt and if she could recognize them. The Duchess, however, met her daughter's gaze, and before a word was spoken, tears began to fall. 1,000 words were caught in her throat. In the end, it all melted into a hug of having found what was lost. Feeling the trembling from her mother's body, Serena raised her hand as best she could and gently patted her back, as if to comfort her. "Don't cry. I'm back." Just then, in a corner no one noticed, Aiden stood quietly, watching the person he had been so worried about, who was finally out of danger. He didn't approach. He didn't even make a sound. He dragged his heavily injured body out of the young lady's room. His anxious heart, in the moment of relief, lost all its strength. His legs went weak, and he collapsed against the wall, unable to rise for a long time, until the sound of footsteps approached. He looked up and saw Lucas standing before him. Remembering his master's prior instructions, Aiden was filled with shame that "I'm sorry. You warned me, but I still failed to stop the young lady. She almost died." Without a word, Lucas helped Aiden up. More than anger, he felt compassion. That's why, while worried about the young lady's safety, he had also noticed Aiden's silent despair. "The young lady survived thanks to you. I should thank you. But if she had died, I would not have forgiven you. Where are your quarters? I'll take you back." But just as Lucas finished speaking, Aiden fainted. A week passed in a flash. During this time, life went on as usual. Everyone in the Duke's mansion was busy with their work in an orderly fashion, except for Selena. Since waking up, she hadn't spoken a word. Every day, she just stared blankly out the window. No matter what the maids said, she remained silent. Jean couldn't understand. The doctor had clearly said the young lady was fine, so why was she still like this? They were all waiting for the young lady to regain her spirits. One day, as the sun was setting, a cool evening breeze blew in. Jean thoughtfully brought a shawl for the young lady. "You must be cold. Don't catch a chill." But unexpectedly, the woman reached out and touched her hand. Jean was ecstatic that, "Oh my goodness, are you going to say something? Father, mother, and brother, I have something to say to them." Hearing this, Jean was overjoyed and was about to run out to inform them, but the young lady held her back. "The woman had more to say. When I was hovering at death's door, I heard your voice. You were crying, telling me to open my eyes, weren't you? You kept calling my name, telling me to come back." "Thank you, Jean." At first, Jean was naively amazed that the young lady could hear her. How miraculous. But after those words of thanks, she choked up. She held the young lady's hand and confessed her panic that "I was so scared. I was afraid something would really happen to you, my lady." Seeing this, another maid pulled her away, saying it was important to deliver the message first. Watching them leave, the woman remained dazed for a long time. Finally, she took a deep breath. Her silence was because she didn't know how to face the loving family she had hurt. But the time had come to put an end to the absurd things she had done. She carefully washed up and changed into a new dress. Hearing the news about his sister, Aaron was overjoyed and rushed out the door. But he saw his sister standing there with a somber expression. He beckoned for her to sit down. The Duke chimed in, "The whole family is here. Come and sit down, Selina." But the woman's lips were tightly sealed. Her hands clenched unconsciously. After another inner turmoil, like a chaotic, muddy wave, she dropped to her knees with a thud. Her brother rushed to help her up, asking what was wrong. "The truth is, I'm still in a lot of pain. I don't know how to live. That's why I distanced myself from you, betrayed your trust, and made you worry. But even though I'm someone who only hurts her family, if you could forgive me." The woman's voice grew more choked with each word. At that moment, panic washed over her like a tide, more terrifying than when she had stood on the building, ready to jump. It turned out that having hope in one's heart could make one tremble. At this, the Duchess also knelt down. She took her daughter's cold hand. Her eyes held a warmth like sunshine warming the heart. "You cruel child, you've made your family worry so much. But I forgive you, because I am your mother. No matter how many mistakes you make, I will still love you." How to live. How many people in this world truly understand? When you don't know anything else, just remember this. Even if you were a sinner, scorned by the world, I would still be there to protect you, willing to rush into the gates of hell. Her mother's words brought Selina to tears. Only now did she realize how wrong she had been. Even in the original story's ending, she wasn't abandoned by everyone. Her real mother, father, and older brother were all silently and unconditionally loving her. Tears streamed down her face as she apologized over and over again. Outside the stone door, Lucas stood quietly. The person he was so worried about had finally given up on dying. The next day, Selina woke up, rubbing her swollen eyes. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in, carrying a shower of petals. For the first time, she took a good look at her surroundings. Before, she had only considered this a temporary place to stay, never as her room, her home. But thinking about last night's reconciliation, a smile spread from the corners of her mouth like ripples in a clear spring, filling her face. In this life, she had never had a moment as happy and peaceful as this one. She was wearing the lotus root pink silk dress that Jean had picked out for her. Facing the warm morning sun, she thought of her younger sister, Xiaoji. From today on, I think I can finally live as Selina. I won't hesitate or be afraid anymore. Thank you for the gift you gave me. I love it. I really love it. But when she saw Lucas pass by the window, her expression faltered. He was walking side by side with her brother. It seemed they had just finished training. Her brother, was the first to notice his beloved sister's gaze. He gestured excitedly, asking her if she slept well last night. Lucas, however, glanced at her and then looked away. He was clearly angry. Getting the cold shoulder, Selina actually felt a little guilty. After all, she was the one at fault. He cared so much about me, but I jumped the moment he wasn't around. Will he stay angry forever? If he's still angry the next time I see him, should I apologize? Also keenly noticed the change in Lucas's attitude. He fiercely warned his best friend, "Don't you dare hate my sister, or I won't let you off the hook." Lucas muttered that it wasn't that he hated her. Meanwhile, Selina was staring at the dazzling array of desserts on the table. Selina found it strange. It had been several days since she woke up, but someone seemed to be missing. Where was Aiden? The maid's evasive eyes and vague answers made Selina's heart first sink, as if into an ice cellar, then feel like it was being roasted over a fire. Could it be that something happened to Aiden because of me? Was I too naive? Was I too naive to think that the Duke's family wouldn't take their anger out on him? I should have looked for Aiden the moment I woke up, seeing the young miss looking as if she'd lost her soul. Jean first checked her hands to see if she'd been scalded by the tea. Then she told her to calm down, that Aiden was fine. It's just that something unexpected had happened. During the time Selena had shut herself in, Aiden was summoned by the Duke for questioning. What was bound to happen happened. On the way, his friend saw his worried expression and told him not to worry. After all, you're the one who saved the young miss. Surely the Duke won't hold you responsible. But what's the deal with your magic? Aiden remained silent, letting the passing maids and servants gossip about him endlessly. Suddenly, his friend slapped him on the back. Snap out of it. Did you commit a crime or something? You look so guilty with that expression. When the Duke questions you, be firm. Just say you don't know anything. Say it was an ability that emerged instinctively in an emergency. Aiden thanked his friend, but remained heavy-hearted. It would be impossible to bluff his way through this. Because magic is lethal, the Empire established a mage qualification system with complicated regulations. He had hidden his ability to work as a servant in the Duke's house. If he were framed as a spy or an assassin, he would have no recourse, even if thrown into a dungeon for interrogation. But even if I could do it over again, I would still use magic to save her. With the resolve to face death, Aiden arrived at the Duke's office. But the Duke didn't even mention his magic. Instead, with a kind expression, he asked about Aiden's well-being. So, doctors and priests were sent to treat him, but it's estimated he will still have to suffer for several months. It was only then that Aiden, in his surprise, realized that having a priest heal him was a privilege reserved for a duke. As for why he was summoned today, it was to introduce him to someone. Alosan, a high-ranking magician from the Imperial Magic Department. Alosan saw him as a piece of unpolished jade, a matter of great importance from their very first meeting. After that day, Aiden never left his room again. No one knows what they talked about. Everyone said he was probably deeply shocked from seeing the young lady fall with his own eyes. Before she could finish, Jane realized she had misspoken and quickly apologized. The lady, however, asked her if she could pack 2 pieces of cake. This one is for you. Thank you for your hard work taking care of me. Also, there's something I need you to do for me. Quietly tell me where Aiden's room is. Remember to keep it a secret. That night, moonlight spilled like water into the room. The night wind blew, carrying a sense of destiny. Aiden was lying in bed, sleeping with even breaths, when a faint knocking sound suddenly woke him. He sat up abruptly, wondering who it could be so late. Unexpectedly, it was that familiar female voice that tugged at his heartstrings. Aiden, are you asleep? I have something to tell you. After a moment of panic, the man stood silently at the door. Sensing his presence approaching, but receiving no response, Selena sighed. You don't even want to see me now. Although she understood his silence, she couldn't help but feel melancholic as she sat down against the door. She murmured to herself, it's only natural for you to be like this. If you don't want to see me, you could just keep pretending to be asleep. I heard you jump down after me. Actually, I don't remember anything after I jumped. Weren't you scared then? I heard you almost died too. Why would you do such a thing? Hearing this, Aiden hugged himself, trying his best to control his thoughts. How could he not have been afraid? But how could she know that compared to his own death? What the man feared most was her dying and being abandoned by her. So even though the young lady had been saved, Aiden still relived the same inescapable nightmare every night. His life seemed to be frozen on the day the young lady jumped from the tower. In his dreams, there was his pursuit and her disregard, his pleas and her I'm sorry, and the abyss under the moon from that waking nightmare. He stared at the pale wall, licking his wounds. He didn't even know he was being used. Like a fool. So stupid. The young lady only brought me out so she could easily find a chance to jump from the tower. Thinking about it this way, what other reason could there be? Seeing that there was no answer from behind the door, no matter what she said. Selena pressed her lips together. After a moment, she finally asked the question that made her decide she wanted to keep living. Didn't you say that if I came back, you had something to tell me? What did you want to say? This time, before Aiden could choose whether to answer, he heard the voices of people returning to their quarters, about to pass his room. He couldn't stay put any longer. He flung the door open. The young lady's reputation could not be compromised. He pulled her inside, shielding her with his body and shut the door, listening carefully. Only after the footsteps faded did he let out a slight sigh of relief. Are they gone? The woman's voice, clear as a bell, reached him. Aiden hurriedly pushed the young lady out of his embrace. His face flushed. Why, lady, why would you come to a servant's room so late at night? What if you were discovered? He said as he drew the curtains. Moonlight filtered through the fabric, casting ripples of light on his body. Selena sat on the edge of the bed, and after looking around, she couldn't help but remark that this was Aiden's room. Although it's simple, it's very clean and comfortable. Your room is just like you. The last sentence, spoken from the heart, made Aiden fall silent again. He still hadn't figured out how to face her. Just then, the young lady took his hand. Can you turn around? Let me see your face. She had him sit down. He hesitated for a second, then did as he was told. Even though his heart was filled with grievances, he looked at her. He just couldn't bring himself to refuse her. Aiden, I'm sorry. Although Selena's voice was very soft, Aiden felt as if it was a heavy weight crushing the panic that had built up over so many days. Aiden went from whimpering to sobbing, covering his face. His tears were endless. The woman's heart was breaking with guilt, and she kept repeating, I'm sorry. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he managed to calm down. Once he was sure the young lady no longer had any suicidal thoughts, he shyly reminded the young lady, you can let go of my hand now. Seeing him calm again, Selena gave a charming smile, and Aiden found himself staring, mesmerized. He was completely captivated. He thought it was the first time he'd seen the young lady smile so dazzlingly, but he still couldn't help but plead, please, don't ever do that again. The moment I saw you lying on the ground, bleeding, Seeing Aiden was about to shed tears again, the woman quickly presented what she had prepared. This is a gift for you. It's your favorite cake. Sure enough, the sight of his favorite food instantly stopped Aiden's tears. He stood up to get a fork from the kitchen. Why go to all that trouble? Just eat it. Here. With that, Selena held the cake to the man's lips. At that moment, the flavor of the cake was no longer important, because neither the sweet and sour taste of the strawberry nor the fragrant sweetness of the cream could compare to the touching feeling of being cared for by the young lady. And seeing his satisfied expression as he ate, a smile graced the woman's lips. Just then, Aiden, noticing her gaze, suddenly realized he had been so busy eating that he hadn't offered any to the young lady. Let me have a bite too, she said, but I've already eaten from this. Before the man could finish, the woman snatched the cake away. She didn't even bother to turn it to a different side before taking a bite. As the strawberry jam spread across her palate, Selena praised it with delight. Aiden watched, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, amused by the young lady's innocent charm, he broke into a gentle smile. The young lady was truly unpredictable sometimes, acting like a little glutton, getting it all over her mouth. But don't worry, he said, this handkerchief is clean. Outside, the stars twinkled silently. Inside, Selena's heart also skipped a beat. She and Aiden shared the rest of the cake, each taking a piece. She rejoiced inwardly, feeling her life had taken another step forward. But the start of this new life left her feeling a bit unsettled. Everyone in the ducal manor, regardless of their status, was working hard. Her father was busy attending noble council meetings. Her mother was busy with charitable activities, and her brother was busy inspecting the family's domain. The staff were busy with their tasks. Everyone was living a vibrant, energetic life. Everyone except Selena, who just ate, drank, and slept. So, she went to her mother, wanting to contribute in her own small way. The Duchess's eyes were overflowing with affection. When you were a child, you were always so anxious and insecure. It was as if you had to become someone special just to prove your existence. If things didn't go your way, you wouldn't forgive yourself, nor would you forgive anyone else. Even when we told you that we love you regardless of your accomplishments, it seemed like you couldn't feel the sincerity of our hearts back then. So, don't be in such a rush. We can figure out the future together, step by step. For now, can you just focus on cherishing each day? Her mother's words made Selena realize she was getting stuck in her own head again, thinking that to deserve to live, she had to be useful to others. She had forgotten that her father, mother, and brother loved her even when she did nothing at all. After their heart-to-heart, Selena strolled cheerfully through the courtyard, only to unexpectedly run into Lucas resting in the shade of a tree. Without a second thought, she turned to leave. Ever since the man had given her that fiery glare, she had taken detours just to avoid him. The two of them hadn't exchanged a single word. By the time Lucas noticed, the woman was already long gone. This time, he chased after her. "Where are you off to in such a hurry?" "I'll walk you." "No, that's all right. I'm going back to my room." "But isn't the young lady's room in the opposite direction?" "Oh, right. Well, I'll be going then. Let me walk you." "No." Lucas sighed with a helpless smile. This woman was truly the master of avoidance. It seemed it was up to him to take the initiative. He called out, "Selena, stop. I'm not angry. How long are you going to keep being so awkward?" Hearing his words, Selena finally stopped in her tracks. She turned back and asked uncertainly, "You're really not angry?" Unexpectedly, instead of answering, Lucas asked a question of his own. "I'm also curious. Are you apologizing to me?" The woman didn't deny it. Her words were sincere. "I'm sorry. I made you worry." Now, the pair of azure eyes were no longer empty. Lucas was relieved that, "If you feel sorry for me, then grant me one wish." "What? Is your apology to me not enough to grant me one wish?" Selena was non-committal, only reminding him as she left. "If you ask me to do something strange, I'll tell my brother. Then I'll take that as a yes. Let me walk you back to your room. Is that your wish?" "No need. I'll go back by myself." The next day, Aiden, who had returned to his post, was receiving warm greetings from all sides. Selena listened with a complex expression to the chatter outside the window. Tiano stood behind her, teasing that now, for Aiden's male and female colleagues. The women were charmed by the romance of him saving the young lady's life, while the men all envied his incredible magic. Watching Aiden, who was being showered with attention, the woman recalled her dream. She had asked what he was going to say when she woke up. "Didn't I tell you? It was nothing important." "What a pity. I thought I'd get an answer if I asked." "Tell me next time." "Okay." At the time, the man had blushed and didn't answer. Thinking of this, Selena's tone became sharper as she gave her order. "Tell Aiden to stop dawdling and come to my room immediately." What was he doing just standing there? The attendant was confused, not understanding why the young lady's mood had suddenly soured. Nearby, Lucas, watching the distracted woman, spoke up. After a while, he called out to her, mentioning that recently everyone outside was looking for the Duke's daughter. There had been an incident, her fate unknown. To clear up the rumors, the entire family was running themselves ragged. The woman's eyelids lifted slightly. Her parents and brother had hidden it from her, but he was being direct, because hiding it isn't a good thing. "This is your own affair. Of course, you should be aware of it." Selena didn't want to be just a little sister who was always protected. She should be the one to clean up the mess she had caused. Unfortunately, her family doted on her too much. She asked Lucas to tell her everything she needed to know and how to resolve the current situation. "Host a greenhouse party. If you appear at the party completely unharmed, the rumors will disappear on their own." Selena approved of the idea, but besides Vivian, she couldn't think of anyone else to invite. "Could you give me an invitation list?" A smile touched Lucas's lips. "As you wish, my lady." Meanwhile, Vivian was rolling around on her bed, utterly heartbroken. Ever since that day, she had become fascinated with that beautiful and cold woman. But not only did Selena not come to the garden party she hosted, she also disappeared without a word while they were picking out dresses. "It's too much. I thought we were already friends." Just then, an invitation from the ducal house arrived. Vivian, who was still sulking, immediately jumped up in excitement. In the letter, Selena apologized for leaving without saying goodbye, explaining that she had left in a hurry because she wasn't feeling well. To show her sincerity, she specially invited Vivian to her greenhouse party, insisting she must come. At the end, the woman added a line in small print. "The young lady is magnanimous. I trust you will forgive my circumstances. Can what happened between us be our little secret?" Clutching the letter to her heart, Vivian was first thrilled. Why dear Selena actually call me dear? Then, her heart ached out. "Of course I will. My poor Miss Selena, just how unwell must she be?" Finally, she was filled with anticipation and determination. Has it finally come? A topic only the closest of friends would share. A secret that belongs only to us. I will definitely protect my best friend's secret. But Xiao Hong, who didn't receive an invitation, was furious. She went to her father to curry favor, while fuming that after all her bootlicking, Selena was throwing a party and deliberately not inviting her. Doesn't this basically announce that she has been cast out by the ducal house? Once her father thinks she is of no use to the family, he will definitely sell her off to that honorary count who has nothing but money, who knew that just as she reached the door, she would be startled. She wondered, as she hadn't heard of any visitors today. At that moment, inside the room, the cloaked man was grinding his molars in frustration. The house of Duke Bate. They actually stole the sacrifice I spent so much effort cultivating. Xiao Hong's father said dismissively, "Who are you to blame for not guarding it properly?" Before the Duke's family knows the exact nature of the sacrifice, find a suitable excuse to make them return it. Outside the door, Xiao Hong was both confused about what sacrifice meant and wondered who the other person was. It was a voice she had never heard before. Suddenly, the door was thrown open. The cloaked man's sharp gaze swept over. Xiao Hong didn't even have time to hide. Afterwards, she was locked up by her father. No matter how much she cried and pleaded, her father was dead set on marrying her off to a perverted, dissolute, and shabby fellow. Raising you is worse than raising pigs. At least they can be sold for money to feed and clothe you. What good have you brought to the family? From now on, you will study bridal lessons at home. You are forbidden from approaching the study when there are guests. At this moment, Xiao Hong turned to the dark side. She covered her mouth to stifle her sobs that I don't need you either. I'm the only one who can protect my own life, even if what I do harms this damned family. Born with the divine power to command all things, she also had a heart full of compassion for the world. At an age when she was barely weaned, she could use her divine power to heal the sick. The old woman exclaimed that it was simply a miracle. Her gratitude made little Leanne very happy. But suddenly, the high priest appeared behind her and placed a hand on little Leanne's shoulder. With a kind smile, he asked the old woman to keep today's events a secret. Later, in a secret basement, little Leanne was harshly reprimanded by an elder priest. "How dare you show off everywhere?" The high priest repeatedly instructed you to hide your abilities. A disobedient child like you must be taught a harsh lesson. Lying on the bed sobbing, little Leanne's hands were beaten red. She didn't understand. She only helped because she couldn't bear to see the old woman's suffering. Just then, the high priest came to her room, stroking her head. He questioned, "You think you're doing a good deed, don't you? But think about it. Every time you perform a miracle, doesn't a sense of arrogance sprout in your heart?" Leanne hurriedly explained that she didn't. She only felt happy because she saw that everyone else was happy. You see, you feel joy by proving your abilities. Aren't you ashamed to show off your insignificant power in the name of God? Under the temple's psychological manipulation, Leanne fell into a state of low self-esteem and self-doubt. She no longer took joy in helping others with her healing powers and would feel uneasy when using them, afraid of misleading others and causing the gods to be blamed. It wasn't until she came to the Duke's mansion that she regained her confidence. After saving a dying maid, she was taken under the wing of the doctor, and they treated patients together every month. The people here were grateful for her help with their treatments. Their sincere thanks made Leanne no longer feel ashamed. She would even think back to the temple and couldn't help but compare. Had she ever had such meaningful days before? But on this day, Aiden brought her a letter from the temple. Leanne froze on the spot, understanding that what was meant to come had come. So she found the Duchess and insincerely suggested that she wanted to return to the temple. After thinking about it, I don't think I'm qualified to stay here forever. I've been so caught up in your generous hospitality that I've forgotten that I should return to my own place. Her clumsy acting didn't fool Selena and Aiden at all. So, the lady persuaded her not to rush into a decision. The Duke's mansion had already hired her as their personal cleric. The temple has also received corresponding compensation. You don't need to be confused. Think about it some more. If you want to stay here, you can stay forever. After sending Leanne off, while strolling through the courtyard in the setting sun, Selena, who wanted to say something to the man, suddenly felt that the distance between them was too great. What she wanted was to be shoulder to shoulder, not for him to walk behind her due to his status. So she stopped and, turning her aside, said, "Take 3 steps forward." Although Aiden was confused, he obediently stepped forward. He asked, "Does the young miss have an order for me?" "Now, I can finally see your face clearly. You don't have to worry too much about Priest Leanne. But Aiden, when we talk in the future, can we walk side by side like this?" A tremor struck his heart, as if the world had stood still. In that moment, Aiden could hear and see nothing but the young lady and her words. But his hand, so close to her slender fingers, trembled uncontrollably before clenching into a tight fist. In the end, his heart full of love transformed into a single, soft phrase, "Yes, my lady." The next day, as bright sunlight streamed into Selena's room, Lucas listlessly flipped through a book, his gaze drawn to the woman from time to time. He could see Selena diligently taking notes on the invitations, preparing for the upcoming greenhouse party. She was struggling with the guest list. She could prepare for the main guests, but what about the partners they might bring? Lucas spoke gently, saying he would stay by her side to help her. Besides, everyone knew she had lost her memory, so even if she didn't recognize someone, it wouldn't be a major issue. Seeing the two of them talking so closely, the maids watched with sparkling eyes, unable to resist shipping them as a couple. I so wish those two would get together. They'd surely become the couple of the century, just like Lord Aaron and the princess. Hearing the maids gossip, Lucas fell silent. He turned to look at the woman who was increasingly occupying his heart. She was gazing intently at Aiden as he served tea. His usually placid face now held a smile at the corners of his lips. He watched as her eyes, full of another man, followed Aiden. Realizing this, Lucas turned away, a dull ache starting in his heart. I was wrong. He thought I could convince myself that just having her alive was enough. But it seems I can't. At some point, Lucas quietly left the room. Only Aiden remained, arranging the freshly picked, delicate pink roses in a vase. As the sky began to darken, Selena spoke up, telling the man to stop working and go rest. Aiden complied, quickening his pace as he tidied up, but a reluctance to leave bloomed in his heart. But then, the young lady asked him, "Aiden, why don't you go to the magic tower? Didn't father introduce you to a high-ranking magician?" In his panic, the man nearly dropped the vase he was holding. Meeting the young lady's questioning gaze, his memory returned to the day he was summoned to speak with the Duke. At the time, the Duke had also been puzzled. An opportunity like going to the magic tower could prove his abilities and change his destiny. Why would he need time to consider it? The Duke had smiled knowingly. "It seems you've grown quite fond of this place, haven't you? It's all right, I'll give you time to think. After all, you will be gone for a long time." But even though Aiden had been disappointed by the young lady, heartbroken, and had wanted to run away, that spark of hope had been rekindled. He couldn't bring himself to leave. He even greedily wanted to know if she wanted him to stay. "My lady, do you want me to leave?" The woman saw the hurt expression on the man's face, but didn't understand the reason for it. "Isn't that what you wanted? Don't speak as if you know me so well. How would you know what I truly want?" The sudden, sharp retort made the woman's head buzz. If she remembered correctly, in the novel, he was a character who desperately craved magic. After punishing Selena, he left without a second glance to become a magician. Could she have remembered wrong? The woman awkwardly stated that it was his choice to make, regardless. Then you should think carefully about what it is you truly want. One day, Selena was in the garden choosing flowers for the party. Suddenly, the butler came to report that the high priest had arrived personally, asking to see Priest Lien. Given the high priest status, a visit to the ducal house required the head of the family to receive him. But with her parents and brother away, the responsibility fell to Selena. At first, she found the high priest to be quite amicable until she saw him patting Lien's shoulder and saying, "My dear son, how could you leave me without a word? How cruel. I don't need to remind you that it's time to come back, do I?" Lien bristled with fury, on the verge of calling out the high priest's hypocrisy. But he just stammered, unable to speak his mind. In the end, the lady had to spell it out for him. From Priest Lien's expression, it doesn't seem like he wants to go back. Seeing this, the high priest rose and went to Lien's side. The lady may not be aware. He has lived in the temple since childhood. Suddenly receiving such favorable treatment from a noble family, his head must be in the clouds. But once he realizes it's all an extravagant hope, he'll be filled with regret and shame. Facing the high priest's blatant manipulation, the lady retorted, "What do you mean by extravagant hope? Priest Lien is so exceptional. He deserves to be treated well. But she, as a lady, does nothing but idle her days away. She neither has her brother's ability to govern the territory, nor does she know swordsmanship, and she possesses no magic or divine power. If someone like her can enjoy such generous treatment, why can't Lien? just by virtue of the people he has helped wanting him to stay. He is more than qualified. Seeing that the lady was no pushover, the high priest quickly turned to Lien for help. The lady seems to have misunderstood. Quick, tell us your thoughts. At that moment, Lien, whose sense of self had been awakened by her kindness, tried to voice his own wishes for the first time. I still wish to do my humble part to bring happiness to everyone. I will work humbly and not be a burden to the gods. Please, allow me to remain here. The high priest stared at him for 3 seconds, then switched to a jovial demeanor. He was very pleased that his good boy had grown a spine and could speak his mind. He was so proud of him. But even in that brief 3-second window, Selena and Aiden both caught a clear glimpse of his venomous anger. That perhaps was his true face. Sure enough, in the carriage on the way back, the high priest's expression was contorted with rage. He plotted that once Lien was back in the temple, he would teach him a lesson personally. And that arrogant little wench, how dare she take his offering? But then he recalled the woman's parting warning. If you need Lien for anything in the future, please contact me first. After all, he is under my protection now. The man's fist clenched. He would make her pay the price. Meanwhile, Selena was slumped on the sofa, thinking about Lien's words of gratitude. In truth, she was moved by the backbone he had shown. In a daze, she saw a reflection of her former self. Perhaps he, too, had endured a sorrowful past in the temple. Night fell. Aiden tucked his lady in as usual. In the quiet, the woman murmured as if in a dream, "Good night, Aiden." Hearing this, the man blushed, a mix of shyness and guilt. He apologized for his impudence toward her the day before. Looking at his face in the dim lamplight, Selena sat up in bed to encourage him. "You are just as capable as Lien. Whenever you're ready, I hope you will do what you truly want to do." Aiden pressed his lips together, silent. He understood his lady's intentions and knew which path was more meaningful. But it would mean he could no longer stay by her side. Would his lady truly be fine without him? Soon, the day of the greenhouse party arrived. Lucas, freshly freed from his confinement, worried as he dried his hair. Even if his love was unrequited, he loved her deeply. He couldn't stop thinking about her, even while bathing. The day had finally come. The day Selena's reputation in society would be judged anew. He was as nervous as if he were the one about to be judged. And just as restless was Aaron, who was pacing back and forth and muttering incessantly. This made Lucas even more agitated. "That you're driving me crazy. Can't you be quiet for a second? Why are you barging into my room and causing a ruckus so early in the morning?" Aaron retorted self-righteously, "Because I'm anxious." He was worried about his sister's debut party getting a lukewarm response. How hurt would she be after putting in so much effort? He couldn't bother his busy, precious sister, so he could only take out his frustration by ruffling his best friend's hair with a towel. First, he thanked Lucas gently. "Thank you for always helping Selena." Then, he began to plead tearfully. "You really can't lie to Selena and let me attend to." As the sun set, night descended, accompanied by the elegant strains of piano music. As the host, Selena stood with Lucas by her side. He dutifully reminded her of each guest's identity. Watching her handle the social interactions with ease, his eyes and the corners of his lips were filled with adoration and a smile. Just then, Vivian burst through the crowd. She shouted, "My dear Selena," while tightly gripping the woman's hand. Like a machine gun, she blurted out, "Have you recovered? I was so worried about you. Oh my gosh, you're actually wearing the dress I gave you. I told you pink has its own charm. It suits you so well." In fact, to wear such a pink dress, Selena had to do a lot of mental preparation. But she had taken advantage of Vivian for the cordless bungee jumping. Feeling guilty, she hoped this would make her happier. Meanwhile, the crowd swarmed around her, starting to fawn over her. Seeing Selena struggling to handle them politely, Lucas stepped in to divert their attention. "Was your journey here smooth? Let me show you to your seats." After being rescued, the woman stole a glance at the man who handled the situation with such composure. A sense of admiration for him welled up inside her. She had ruined his destined marriage with the princess. The prince consort was reduced to a single man. Thinking about it, she felt quite sorry for him. But Lucas was handsome and capable, so he probably wouldn't have trouble finding a new love. Taking the champagne offered by Aiden, the party reached its peak amidst the clinking of wine glasses and laughter. Selena thanked the guests for gracing the party with their presence. Weaving through the bustling crowd, she struggled to maintain her smile. but nothing made her want to run and hide more than socializing. She hid behind a pillar where no one could see her. She tried to take off her sky-high heels, as her feet were incredibly swollen. Suddenly, a pair of hands reached out. It was actually Miss Vivian kneeling down to take off her shoes for her. She asked softly, "Feeling better now? I'm sorry to have a lady like you do this. It's all right. Aren't we friends?" The word friends melted in the woman's heart like chocolate, sweet yet with a hint of bitterness. Because in her past life, she had been all alone until the day she died. She never thought she could have a friend by her side in this life. So they talked about the stars and the moon, from poetry and songs to the philosophy of life. But just as Vivian left to touch up her makeup in the restroom, a man with dark circles under his eyes and dressed in navy blue took the opportunity to approach. He introduced himself as Jack, while pressing his hot, clammy lips to the back of Selena's hand. Instantly, goosebumps erupted all over the woman's body. But what puzzled her more was why this character had surfaced now. He confidently exuded a repulsive charm. Selena really couldn't help but sneeze loudly. Logically, anyone with a bit of sense would have backed off at this point. But the man just wiped his face and, completely unfazed, continued the awkward conversation, asking the woman what she thought of Lucas. He is someone I respect and trust, because he is not only the vice captain of the ducal family's Knight Order, but also my brother's closest friend. After hearing this, Jack breathed a long sigh of relief. Thankfully, that man wasn't his rival in love. "Actually, I want to win your heart, my lady. From now on, you don't have to be so strong anymore. Your wall is here." "Oh dear, what a klutz I am. I've spilled it all. May I borrow your handkerchief? I just used mine." Selena didn't want to lend it to him, afraid that this guy would use returning the handkerchief as an excuse to ask her out. At the critical moment, Lucas appeared. He offered his own handkerchief. "As Lady Selena's companion, it's my duty to assist her guests when they are in need. Go on, take it." The woman was very grateful for his intervention, but in response to her thanks, Lucas was curt. "Isn't it a matter of course? After all, to you, I'm just the vice captain of the Knight Order and Aaron's friend." His seemingly angry face left Selena baffled. Had she not used enough adjectives? How could she know that even when surrounded by a vortex of praise and admiration, Lucas's gaze had never once left her? The moment Jack Chang approached, he took notice, deeply displeased by the man's frivolous and dissolute manner. What would they be talking about to be laughing like that? More importantly, is Selena laughing too? Impossible. She must be wearing her usual expressionless face, as if bored by everything. But that thought didn't last long. The memory of that afternoon surfaced in Lucas's mind when he eagerly smiled at Xiao AI. Suddenly, his heart felt like it was burning. The adoring fans, both male and female, praised his boldness and his capacity for liquor. Yet no one noticed Lucas's tightly clenched fists trembling. He, who feared nothing, had found his one exception in her. How he wished she wouldn't smile at him like that again, only to realize that to her, he was just Aaron's friend. Just then, Jack Chang refused her handkerchief. Of course, the man's true intentions lay elsewhere. This made the men and women who had been watching Lucas's every move antsy. Suddenly, the air was filled with the sound of shattering glasses. They were all hoping to get their idol's attention by getting their dresses wet. Guessing their intentions, Selena gestured for a maid to come over. Jack Chang, having been ignored, thought his confession hadn't been ardent enough. "I am serious, my lady. I told you I like you. I would walk through fire for you. From the first moment I saw you, I knew you were the master of my heart, the future mother of my children." But this time, before he could finish, she cut him off abruptly. She felt she might be sick if she heard another word. So Selena interrupted him, sending Lucas to appease the nobles with the wet clothes. Meanwhile, Aiden approached slowly, carrying a small bamboo basket. Inside was the Hermes handkerchief she had requested. When Aiden saw Jack Chang sitting at the same table as his lady, he stopped in his tracks. Aiden quickly folded the handkerchief neatly. "We'll need it in a moment. You can't be serious. You're letting a servant sit here." At his words, both of their expressions soured. Aiden immediately stood up to leave, but his lady grabbed his sleeve. "Sit down." "Aiden," the woman said, her eyes glinting dangerously, "if my man is sitting here on my behalf, and you find that improper, then we can switch seats." How could Jack Chang dare to have the Empire's only princess sit in a chair he had just vacated? He quickly explained that he had spoken without thinking. Every time his lady protected him like this, Aiden felt as if he were walking on clouds. At last, the party drew to a close. Selena once again thanked her esteemed guests for attending. To make them feel welcome, she had also prepared small parting gifts, though they were merely inexpensive Hermes handkerchiefs. The important part was that she had asked Lucas to hand them out personally, delivering her regards to each and every guest. "Didn't you say you should help me with trivial matters like this?" A warmth spread across Lucas's face, which had been cold all night. For a moment, he forgot her words about him being just Aaron's friend. He set aside his pride, his cold voice softening a few degrees. "Of course, my lady." Watching as everyone, men and women alike, grew flushed with excitement upon receiving a handkerchief from him, Selena felt as if Lucas were holding a fan meet and greet. His hands were not just hands. They were a gentle universe, and these adoring fans were the little planets revolving within it. Just as she was lost in thought, Vivian took her hand. "Miss Selena, I had a truly wonderful time today. It's the first time I've been to a party so free of schemes, where I could simply enjoy myself. That's why there's something I'm not sure I should say." She advised Selena not to get too close to Jack Chang. "That man's reputation is dreadful. I'm very worried he might hurt you." Seeing Vivian's earnest, loyal expression, Selena couldn't help but squeeze her hand back, her voice softening. "Thank you for your concern, my lady. I will be careful." Just then, Jack Chang came to bid farewell. Taking her hand, his lips were practically itching to kiss it, but Selena snatched her hand back with swift, ruthless precision. She did her best to maintain a veneer of civility as she sent the man on his way. After things went awry, it became an endless cycle. This man was supposed to appear when he was 23. Why is he here so soon? The woman woke up, her body aching all over. Last night was just too thrilling. In her 2 lifetimes, it was the first time she had ever been so sociable. The reaction was unexpectedly explosive. Not only did she shed her former villainous persona, but even the rumors of her suicide died down. However, it took a significant toll on her energy. Her loyal male servant brought an herbal tea to relieve her fatigue, but Selena keenly noticed his gloomy expression. He looked preoccupied with something, no matter what he was doing. She recalled how he was scolded by an arrogant noble last night. Could that be the reason? Indeed, to avoid being treated so dismissively, one must change their social class. Otherwise, no matter how she tries to protect her idol, as long as the label of servant sticks to him, he will never be respected. But Aiden wasn't being overly sensitive. He was worried about his lady. Last night, he came into physical contact with Jack Chang twice. After the first touch, he felt nauseous. The man's aura was unsettling. He remembered what the white-haired old man once told him. Mages are highly sensitive. Even without formal training, he could use magic, causing his magic to be unstable. When their auras clashed, he would feel sick to his stomach. Based on this alone, he couldn't be certain that Jack Chang was a werewolf. But after the man bumped into him a second time, during a dizzy spell, he had a vision of Jack Chang being instructed by someone to deliberately approach the young lady for money. Now, Aiden was certain this man had ill intentions. He still hadn't figured out how to tell his lady when Lucas appeared, carrying a thick stack of letters. Most of the letters were to thank the woman for her greenhouse party. Only the one from Jack Chang was an invitation for Selena to go see a painting exhibition with him. Lucas laughed, remarking that Chang was quite the impatient one and advised her to just find an excuse to ignore the invitation. But Selena surprisingly said to reply that she would go. She agreed to the invitation, despite knowing he likely had malicious intentions. Although Lucas didn't understand, he didn't question it. He trusted that she had her reasons. Aiden's expression turned grim. He was running out of time. That night, he decided that whether his vision was real or not, he would tell his lady first thing in the morning. But unexpectedly, he heard her voice at his door once more. Just like the other night, she was softly calling his name, a cake box in her hand. Aiden was visibly flustered. He pulled her into a protective embrace, ushering her into the room. Before shutting the door, he checked outside several times. He breathed a sigh of relief only after making sure no one else had seen her. He wanted to lecture her about coming to find him alone so late at night. But after she told him why she came, he held his tongue and couldn't help but smile that I think the cake tastes best when I eat it here. So today, I even brought a fork. It was then that Aiden noticed her bare feet. Even though the weather was warm, her feet could have been cut by the stones on the path. So he took off his own slippers, knelt on one knee, and put them on for her. That IT would be terrible if you got hurt. They're my slippers, but please wear them for now. A blush crept onto the woman's face. Her cold feet were enveloped in warmth. After they finished the cake and Aiden was tidying up, "My lady, are you really going to see Jack Chang? Can you please not go?" Not understanding, the woman wondered if he was jealous. That is, until she heard what he had seen and thought. She found herself wishing it was just jealousy. She reassured him, "Don't worry. I know he's a fraud. Then why are you still going to see him?" "Wait, how did you know?" As Aiden looked on in confusion, the woman drifted into a memory. The secret about her past and present lives would one day be known by a third person. Seeing his lady's expression turned sorrowful, Aiden quickly asked what was wrong. "That it's nothing. It just reminded me of the past." "Aiden, maybe one day I can tell you everything." Caressing the lingering warmth of the young lady on the bed, Aiden was both curious and hopeful about what that might be. After leaving, Selena walked cheerfully on her way back to her room. She was so happy that she didn't even notice Lucas nearby. The moment Lucas saw her, his eyes sparkled, and he was eager to call out to her. But he keenly noticed the woman's flushed cheeks and the men's slippers on her feet. He glanced in the direction she came from. It was the servants' quarters. Lucas was instantly thunderstruck. The people who loved him could form a line from the 18th level of the underworld to the rooms on the surface. Yet he favored the one who didn't love him, to help her reverse her villainous reputation. He went 7 days and 7 nights without sleep, as he accompanied her to see off the last guest. He praised her with great enthusiasm, telling her she was amazing. Deep in his emotions, Lucas wanted to stop Selena from returning to her room. He wanted to bring his secret love out into the open, but the "I love you" on the tip of his tongue somehow turned into "it's nothing." Tonight, he was so worried about the Duke's family that he couldn't sleep, having heard that their rivals were secretly plotting something. A great web of conspiracy seemed to have been cast. Coincidentally, he ran into her as she was passing through the courtyard. Unfortunately, the woman was blushing, wearing men's slippers, and coming from the direction of the servants' quarters. Lucas was immediately consumed by the flames of anger. He stormed into Aiden's room. The cake that hadn't been cleared away and the man's bare feet all confirmed his suspicions. He grabbed Aiden by the collar and dragged him into the room. Was the young lady here? Aiden wasn't a fool. Understanding the insinuation behind the question, he flared up too. "Please do not have any improper thoughts about the young lady." Lucas clenched the fist that was gripping the collar. "If you were a nobleman, I would have beaten you up long ago. You should consider if you and I are equals." He then let go, but that didn't mean he was backing down. "Don't you dare tarnish the young lady's reputation. Otherwise, I won't spare you." This suspicion triggered Aiden's protective instincts. To him, the young lady was someone he would risk his life to protect. How could I possibly do anything to harm her? But is it forbidden to even watch over her from the side? Is that a crime punishable by death? He wanted to say more, but Lucas covered his mouth, signaling him to be quiet. Then he opened the door to find a crowd of gossips blocking the entrance. Lucas shooed the eavesdroppers away. After making sure they were completely alone, he closed the door. He replied to Aiden, "Have your feelings, but don't show them. Otherwise, people won't care about your pure heart. To them, it will just be a juicy scandal. They will point fingers at the young lady, and it will put her in a dangerous position. Knowing that, are you still going to declare it openly? Claiming you just like her, and that it's no big deal to show it. I'll pretend I don't know what happened today, but this is as far as it goes. I won't tolerate it again." The next day, on the way to their appointment with Jack, Selena looked at the two men pointedly ignoring each other. She had heard bits of the gossip from last night. However, by the time it reached her, the story had turned into Aiden admiring Lucas and wanting to spend his life with him, and the two had a huge fight over it. Many people championed Aiden, believing there's nothing wrong with loving someone. What's wrong with them both being men? The woman also said very open-mindedly that she had no prejudice in that regard. Little did she know that one sentence had wounded two hearts that loved her in secret. By the time they reached the dessert shop, Jack walked in with a smug look on his face. He hadn't expected to actually get a date with the woman, only to see her two companions by her side. He said with a forced smile, "You even brought Lucas and that scary guy with you." "Yes, because they're the people I trust the most." Jack kept his forced smile. Before his seat was even warm, he eagerly confessed his love. But Selena's attention was entirely on the young male servant. She gestured for the two at the other table to order some cake. Lucas waved his hand. He doesn't like sweets. Aiden likes it. Order a few kinds. Hearing this, Lucas obediently called the waiter over. It didn't matter if he ate it or not. The woman had said Aiden likes it, so he had to order it even if he wasn't having any. The ignored Jack's expression soured. He suppressed his annoyance and put on a deeply affectionate look. He asked the woman if she had considered his confession. Selena said that's exactly why she came. She took out a pre-prepared agreement. This is a contract for the one I will love. If you are ready to love me, sign it, and I will take this seriously too. Hearing he had a chance, Jack nodded vigorously. As long as it could prove his love, he would even drink poison. But when he looked at the contract, he fell silent. There were 250 clauses in total, each one more outrageous than the last. No interfering in each other's private lives. Whoever cheats must chop off a finger. Assets are not to be shared. Each spends their own money. Marriage is only possible 5 years after signing. If one party dies during the relationship, the other must be buried with them. Quite romantic, isn't it? A love where you can be together, even in death. Jack asked angrily if she was toying with him. I guess it's fun to play with someone's sincere feelings. Hearing this, Selena's expression turned cold. The one trying to deceive with false affection was now standing on a moral high ground, pointing fingers. In the original novel, he appears 3 years later, getting beaten up for blackmail, which serves as a wake-up call. Now that he has appeared early, the woman was keen to know why. She asked him who was behind this. She didn't believe he was stupid enough to have planned this himself. Seeing his plan was exposed, Jack tucked his tail and ran. At the side, Lucas picked up the contract and looked at it, a gentle expression appearing on his usually cold face. He then told Aiden to stay by the woman's side. He was stepping out for a moment and would be right back. At this moment, Jack hadn't yet realized the approaching danger. He kicked a stone on the road to vent his anger. A mother and child ahead were about to be hit. Luckily, the agile Lucas appeared in a flash and caught the stone. Are you hurt? And no, thank you for blocking the flying stone for us. For some reason, the sight of the mother holding her son reminded Lucas of his own mother, who had passed away. He clenched the stone, looking in the direction Jack had fled. He didn't want to play this cat-and-mouse game anymore. He blocked his path and threw the stone, which flew precisely past his nose. Let's have a chat. An accident where someone falls, hits the back of their head, and dies is something I'd rather you not experience. While Lucas was clearing the obstacle for the woman, she saw the male servant seemed interested in the agreement, so she handed it over. You can read it. Aiden was genuinely curious. When he saw the ridiculous clauses, he couldn't help but laugh. At this moment, Selena's gaze softened. He really does look better when he smiles. Lucas, having dealt with the trouble, walked in to see this scene. She was smiling at him like that again. What was he to do? When he's near her, his composure shatters. But once he's away from her, he longs for her. The puppy-like servant sees her as his salvation, his white moonlight. The wolf-like knight worships her as his lifelong savior. They were both cautious with their secret love, afraid that once exposed, everything would be ruined. But feelings are the one thing you can't control. On the way back, Selena was so sleepy her head was bobbing. Just then, the carriage jolted. As she was about to fall, 2 pairs of hands shot out to catch her. Both wanted to be the one to cup her cheek. In the end, it was Aiden who hesitated and pulled his hand back. He watched as the other man's hand cupped the lady's cheek and saw a faint smile form on his lips. He knew all too well what that smile meant. It was a program called love, one that would continue to install itself, regardless of the risks. So that's how it was. Lucas had feelings for the young lady. That night, upon learning his precious sister was being targeted, her brother was so furious he could have torn the room apart. Lucas reminded him from the side that no matter how angry he was, he couldn't act rashly. Otherwise, it would tip off the enemy and ruin the chance of catching the mastermind. In fact, Achong was just a pawn, hired to seduce Selena. Then, a spell was cast on him to make him forget who hired him. A spy brought news about all of this. The information suggested it was all connected to the North. Lucas reassured his friend, asking for 1 month. He was certain he could uncover the whole truth in the North. After saying goodbye to his friend, Lucas saw Selena in the courtyard, who had been waiting for him for a long time. She didn't believe the man's words from earlier. She had a premonition that Achong's premature appearance meant a major conspiracy was brewing. At first, Lucas tried to hide the truth, but she insisted, saying that being kept in the dark was not the answer and that she had a right to know about matters concerning herself. He relented and told her everything he knew. After hearing it all, she became uneasy. She never expected the struggle between the royal family and the Duke's house to be so intense. Was any of this in the novel? So many things had changed that she could no longer tell what was part of the original story. And what was the new, alter plot? Could it be that her decision to live was a reason things were spiraling out of control? Seeing her expression darken, Lucas told her not to worry too much. Struggles of this nature happen all the time. After all, reality isn't a fairy tale. I'll be leaving for a while. It might be for a month or possibly longer. Before I leave, there's something I want to tell you. At this, the man paused for 2 seconds. Selena, I love you. He had finally said it. He finally brought his love out into the open. Perhaps it was seeing her gentle smile towards Aiden that made his jealousy and heartache unbearable. Or perhaps it was the thunderous beat of his heart when he touched her cheek. It was too loud for him to feign ignorance any longer. Or perhaps it was the impending journey, its length and dangers unknown. He had to confess so he wouldn't have any regrets. Let this devout follower of love become a desperate gambler, lost in her vast world. But after a long silence, the woman finally spoke out, of course, I like you too, Lucas. You're a good person. I really must get some rest now. Good night. Watching her retreating figure, the man smiled. She was trying so hard to act natural, but he could easily see her panic and silent rejection. Sure enough, the moment she was out of his sight, Selena's pace quickened. She practically sprinted back to her room, slamming the door shut and leaning heavily against it, trying to calm her racing thoughts. How could she not understand what he meant? But oh, how she wished she had misheard him. I'm sorry, Lucas. It was destined to be a sleepless night. Lucas drank bottle after bottle of wine, but remained sober. So he went to the wine cellar. Here, with its thousands of bottles, there was enough wine to drink his sorrows away. But unexpectedly, he ran into Aiden, who was also tormented by love. Having glimpsed the other man's feelings, Aiden, for the first time, felt a surge of grief and resentment over his status as a servant. No matter how you look at it, the young lady and Lucas are a better match. They are both nobles, and he is just a lowly manservant. Thinking of this, he stood up in frustration. Why are you standing up? Because I don't want to be in the way of a nobleman. Hearing this, Lucas let out a hearty laugh. In response to Aiden's pointed remarks, he also had something to say. He recalled discovering a record in the Empire's history books. A magician of commoner origin who performed a great service for the royal family and was exceptionally granted a title of nobility. Aiden's eyes immediately lit up. Can one obtain a noble title through magic? If he could become a noble? Seeing the look in Aiden's eyes harden, Lucas knew he had made up his mind. Why are you telling me this? I don't like despicable methods. If you feel wronged, then do your best. But if even that cannot change your destiny, it just means that's all you're capable of. At that time, I will not sit back and wait. I will be by her side. Before leaving, Aiden gave Lucas a deep bow to express his gratitude. The next day, Selena received the news. The young manservant had decided to go to the magic tower. She excitedly grabbed Aiden's hand. I have been waiting for you to choose this path. You will surely become the most outstanding magician. But Aiden only wanted to confirm one thing. When I become a magician, can I return to the young lady's side? Hearing this, the woman's expression soured as she pulled her hand away. Aiden's heart sank. Is it not possible? Then I won't go. Of course, you are to return to my side, to be my guard magician. You're not thinking of going somewhere else, are you? That would make me a little uneasy. Should I sign an exclusive contract with you in advance? The young lady's answer rekindled Aiden's hope. He could even see a glimmer of dawn. Then can I be a little greedier? Of course. You're not even going to ask what I'm greedy for. Whatever you desire, you can have it. You can do that. At this moment, although love was not spoken, the two, in a tacit understanding, were both waiting for the future. Time flew by. Before they knew it, the autumn leaves had fallen. With all matters settled, Aiden was to set off for the magic tower the next day. It was also time for Lucas to depart for the north. The night before, Aiden's room was brightly lit with chatter and laughter. His friends were drinking and celebrating to see him off. Meanwhile, Lucas went to find the woman. She had once promised to grant him one wish. He had come to redeem it. Holding a pair of scissors, the woman's hands trembled. She kept telling the man, "Don't move, don't move." She had never cut anyone's hair before. She was scared. Lucas smiled fondly, encouraging her to cut as she pleased. The woman couldn't help but ask, "Why the sudden haircut?" "Because the season has changed. I must change with it." Yes, it must already be winter in the north by now. While Aiden was being surrounded by his friends for a farewell celebration, Lucas stood alone under the moonlight, holding his horse. He left quietly, without even his good friend Aaron knowing. Suddenly, he glimpsed her standing by the window, not far away. No wonder she had asked him when he was leaving. Did she want to see him off personally? His lips parted. It's too cold. Go back inside. Selena nodded in understanding. Have a safe trip. Take care of yourself. In truth, the distance between them was too great to hear anything. But what was said didn't matter. Taking one last deep look at her, Lucas put on his hood, mounted his horse, and rode towards the north without looking back. This was enough. Seeing her one last time was enough. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, Aiden had also prepared himself. He looked back at the manservant's uniform he had worn for so many years, and at the companions who had stood by his side. For the young lady's sake, I must climb to the top with all my might. Finally, he stood beneath the young lady's window. The young lady will be waking up soon. Should I see her one last time before I go? Stop acting like a child. If you want to become a sorcerer, you should leave as soon as possible, or you'll regret it. But unexpectedly, when he opened the car door, he was greeted by the sight of the young lady's face that I was waiting for you. I wanted to see you one last time before you left. Looking at the young lady, who seemed like a miracle to him, she repeatedly urged him, don't worry about other things. Just focus on demonstrating your abilities. Aiden's heart felt aflutter. He asked the young lady if she remembered the question he had asked her before. What she wanted to say to him when he was unconscious that I like you. Perhaps I have since the first moment I saw you. Even when I disliked you, even when I hated you, I think I've actually loved you all along. But after confessing, Aiden felt a pang of regret. Who was he to dare confess to the young lady? But the thought of not seeing her for a while filled him with dread. Just then, the woman took his hand and kissed it. Her lips were like cotton candy, soft and sweet, that you finally worked up the courage. Well done. As for the future, let's talk about it after you've become a sorcerer and returned, all right? So don't take too long to come back. Never before had a moment made Aiden's heart surge with such emotion. He was determined to leave and return as quickly as possible. And here, our story comes to a close.